A girl was chained to a chair, trembling in pain. The protagonist had thought that it was just a game. With a trembling voice, the girl takes her final breath and calls out to Woo Hyun, saying that she cannot take it anymore. But the protagonist kept telling himself that it was just a game that looked incredibly realistic, and that soon they would be able to get out of that place. The girl looks at him with tears in her eyes and a small smile on her lips, apologizes, and soon loses consciousness. Woo Hyun, who was also tied to another chair, screams for Suwa, but unfortunately he cannot do anything. Another young man, also tied up, warns him that he will not be able to go any further, but says that the protagonist needs to survive. Woo Hyun becomes even more furious at that situation, shouting for them not to do that. As time passed, he had no choice but to accept it, but he kept begging his friends not to leave him alone. But now that place had become his new reality. Reverse Planet was the #1 game in the world, a virtual reality game that everyone was talking about. With themes like dimensional rifts, supernatural powers, and vision wars, the game received praise from players all over the world. And because of a friend's recommendation, the protagonist also started playing that game. The girl was explaining that she was playing a game called Reverse Planet, but that was only to make the protagonist become trapped in that other world, the world where Reverse Planet had manifested as reality. Some people wearing masks and protective clothing congratulate test subject number 62, saying that he has taken a step toward becoming a transcendent of the Transcendence Project. This project is an insane experiment that took thousands of lives with the purpose of creating a single transcendent. The kidnapped victims went through electric punishment, drug injections, and body modification. Basically, biological experiments were being carried out there. The commander of that group tells the assistants to burn the bodies and lock number 62 together with those who managed to survive. Woo Hyun looks at that situation and rage begins to grow inside his body, as if he had been consumed by hatred and had become the devil himself. He promises himself that he will never forgive those people because if that truly became his reality, he will survive and have his revenge, no matter what price he has to pay for it. A short time later, the alarm goes off saying that test subjects have escaped and that all staff members need to arm themselves and stay on standby. A group of test subjects was trying to run desperately because the exit was right at the end of the corridor. The protagonist was in the middle and, while running, thinks that if they can get through that corridor, they will finally be able to. But suddenly, a strange man appears in front of them, saying that it looks like they managed to crawl all the way there and now it is time for them to be eliminated. The man begins to approach and the entire group becomes a little apprehensive about that situation. One man says that they need to advance and asks the protagonist to protect the rear of the group, but the man says that they are idiots and that they will all be eliminated there. Sometime later, the fight had ended, and the man was being finished off by the protagonist. As soon as the man loses consciousness, Woo Hyun looks ahead and sees all his companions fallen and lifeless, and crying, says that it happened all over again. Looking at the bodies of his new companions, he hears a completely strange voice calling out to him. It was as if the corrupted souls of his friends were rising, asking him to avenge everyone's death. And to do that, he needed to eliminate all those filthy bastards. The souls screamed that they were filled with rage because everything was so unfair, and they kept getting closer and closer to the protagonist while shouting his name as if begging him to do something so they could rest in peace. A long time passed after the protagonist escaped from their laboratory, and to avenge those he had once loved and respected, he killed even more. This was a revenge that never ended. The souls that tormented him throughout all those years kept appearing, screaming that everything was unfair and that he needed to eliminate everything and everyone who had conspired to make it happen. Woo Hyun was on the verge of a mental collapse, questioning himself about how much longer he would need to live that way because maybe he would need to keep eliminating people until the end of his life. But suddenly a screen appears right in front of him, leaving him surprised. That system screen was informing him that he had a special mission called Bug Correction. He needed to eliminate the leader of the Transcendence Project, and the reward was a chance to return to his original world. Woo Hyun thinks that he has finally managed to gain a chance to escape that damn place. He grabs the system tightly and asks if it is not lying, and the system says that it is telling the truth and asks him to trust it. Sometime later, inside an office, chaos had taken over. Several people had been eliminated and the floor was completely soaked in blood. The last man kneels down and, with a voice trembling in fear, asks why he is doing that just when they were finally about to achieve glory. Then why? He is the executive director of the Transcendence Project. The protagonist's companion grabs the director by the shirt and asks if he really wants to know the reason, because he is acting as if he truly does not know why all of this is happening. He is Kim Youngjun, test object number 81 of the Transcendence Project. The executive director slaps Youngjun's hand away, saying that he should shut up because he is just test object number 81, and he is not talking to him. The director calls the protagonist's name Baek Woo Hyun, Transcendence Project test object number 62, also known as Superman. The executive director says that he entered that place with nothing but a human body, and now he is a superhuman, a perfect work of art of the Transcendence Project. The director emphasizes that anything the protagonist wants, he can find a way to obtain, because compared to those idiots, the protagonist is clearly different from everyone else. Woo Hyun simply says that he wants nothing and prepares to put an end to it. The director tries to beg for his life, but seeing that it will not work, he starts cursing the protagonist, asking if he really thinks he will be able to end it all just by eliminating the director, because the corporate alliance will never forgive someone who shows their claws to them. And it is not just him, because his entire family, acquaintances, and colleagues, every single one of them will be ruined. But Woo Hyun cuts down the director along with the desk and everything. Blood splashes onto Youngjun, who starts complaining about the mess the protagonist had just made. Besides that, he still wanted to ask the director a few questions, but because of Woo Hyun's action, that will no longer happen. The system appears once again saying that the special mission bug correction is complete. Woo Hyun has finished all the missions, and his reward will be guaranteed at that moment. The system asks if he would like to return to his original world. Woo Hyun's eyes light up, thinking that he is finally free and that he only needs to press the button to... But before he presses the button, he hears those voices again, asking where he is going and if he has truly forgotten all of them. Besides that, there were still those who remained there. All the souls continue forming a sea around him, begging him to eliminate all those filthy bastards so they can be avenged, because that is what they want. Woo Hyun thinks that he cannot do this anymore because he is already too tired and questions whether he has not already done enough. His hand was still dirty from his last prey. However, he does not know what he truly needs to do and begins questioning whether it is okay for him to leave this aside at least once, since this may be the first and last time he will have the chance to return home. Youngjun touches his shoulder. The protagonist looks at his friend and says that he will return to his original world. Youngjun becomes confused and asks if he is going crazy, questioning what he means by my world and what he is talking about, because the protagonist has always been there. Woo Hyun presses confirm and asks Youngjun to tell the others that he is sorry. Suddenly, Woo Hyun wakes up lying in a bed. He gets up a little startled, questioning whether that is his room and whether he really returned. Besides that, he has no idea how much time has passed. As soon as he looks at his phone, he realizes that it is the same day he ended up inside that game, which means that time did not pass there, and all the muscles he had when he was inside the game had also disappeared from his body, as if all of that had been nothing but a dream. However, he remembers every detail, every second, every prey and target that was eliminated, his friends begging for help because they did not want to be killed, and even the executive director threatening the protagonist's family. Because of those memories, Woo Hyun thinks that it is impossible for that to have been a dream, since everything he felt is far too vivid inside him. The 10 years he spent in there were definitely real. As soon as he returns to his room, the phone starts ringing, and he sees that the person calling is named Young Na-yeon. He wonders why that name feels so familiar. As soon as he answers the phone, Na-yeon shouts, asking why he is not answering and questioning whether he has already forgotten the promise they made. Woo Hyun, a little confused, asks what promise she is talking about. Na-yeon says that they are meeting that night and emphasizes that she will send the location, so he had better show up soon. Right after that, she hangs up, and the protagonist feels a little lost, thinking that he has just remembered that voice. She is the only classmate he is somewhat close to. Besides that, she was the one who recommended the game Reverse Planet. She had begged him so they could play that game together. The protagonist begins to question whether that can really be true and whether she knew everything and planned everything that happened to him, because based on his memories, maybe he really needs to see her. A short time later, he goes to the location she had sent. Cheerful as always, she starts shouting the protagonist's name and asks him to sit down quickly, saying that it has been a good while since they last saw each other, since this was the first time they had met since final exams. She invites him to drink that night and celebrate a little, but the protagonist refuses, saying that he will not drink alcohol that night. He thinks that if he drinks and ends up getting drunk, he does not know what he might do. Na-yeon asks if he is really serious, because if that is the case, then she will just order food. As soon as the food arrives, she asks if the protagonist has already played the game Reverse Planet. Woo Hyun says that he made his character and finished the tutorial. He thinks that after that, he was dragged into the game. Na-yeon is shocked and asks if that is all he did, emphasizing that what he did cannot even be called properly playing. Woo Hyun becomes completely irritated, asks what she said, and slams the table, thinking that if she knew the 10 hellish years he lived as the devil himself inside an endless hell, she would not say that, and all of this happened because of her. Na-yeon says that she was really excited and sadly tells him that he had promised to watch her stream. Besides that, he was a Coliseum ranker, and showing a little support to a small streamer like her would make her channel explode. Seeing Na-yeon pouting, he thinks that it makes sense now, because she really was doing live streams and that was why she wanted to play with him. Woo Hyun asks if he really promised that, and she says maybe, but states that he promised to show up at least once to play with her. Woo-hyun thinks that he has definitely come back now. He goes home and starts researching a little more about the company called Planet Earth. This is the company behind the game Reverse Planet and is located in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, in the United States. But he decides to leave all of that aside, questioning what he could do by going to the company's headquarters. After all, if he said that the game dragged him inside, it would seem like he was going crazy. And even if the company paid a little attention, it could still be very dangerous. Who knows what they might do to the person capable of ruining the game? He starts thinking and questions what he's doing because he has already left that hell and that should be enough. So why is he chasing after it again? Because of that, he decides that it is time to put an end to all of this and forget everything that happened, because this is his real world. Later, while he was walking through the streets, two friends approach, saying that it has been a long time since they last saw each other. The protagonist thinks that since that day, he returned to studying and tried to live his life normally, but the demon inside him kept embracing him, asking if he wanted to go back and if that was really the reality he deserved to live in. The protagonist looks back, a little startled, but sees nothing. That was when he realized that something had begun to change. It was as if he had been dragged into hell, and all the souls were screaming for revenge, asking him to take revenge in the most brutal way he could, saying that this was not the place where he was supposed to be. Because of that, the protagonist gets up and runs, leaving his friends a little worried. He runs outside and breathes heavily, but no matter where he goes, it keeps appearing, calling his name. Woo-hyun feels something touching his back, grabs a boy's arm with great force, and pulls him, preparing to eliminate him just as he did in the other world. But he did not have the knife in his hands. The boy asks what he is doing, and the protagonist apologizes, saying that he was startled. The boy says that the other people were saying that he was acting very strangely. Woo-hyun, still confused by all of that, looks at his hand and realizes that it is trembling badly. He decides to be alone, goes outside his school and sits on a bench, but the souls continue beside him. He tries to ask them to stop, but the souls keep appearing, telling him to go back and asking if he has already forgotten, because he needs to complete the revenge. Woo-hyun was begging for it to stop, and suddenly his friend approaches, asking if he is okay because he's very pale, does not look very well these past few days, and asks if something happened. Woo-hyun simply says that nothing happened. Nayeon says that if he says so, then it is fine, but asks him to tell her if something happens, because she wants to help him. Woo-hyun asks if she really thinks he's going to call her big sis, but he finally understood. Nayeon says goodbye, saying that she needs to leave, and the protagonist asks her to get home safely. Now that he finally understood, he knows that he was the one responsible for bringing those ghosts back, and if this does not end until they are satisfied, he approaches the virtual game and enters the capsule, saying that at this rate, this world is not much different from the hell he used to live in. Because of that, he needs to return to that world, but this time, he will put a definitive end to it. As soon as he enters the game, the system congratulates him and welcomes him. He looks around, questioning whether this is the laboratory waiting room and whether he really entered the game world. After all, his self from the other world would never go to the laboratory, so why can he not return to the world where he was? Just when he finally decided to return to hell, things are different. He questions whether he needs to fulfill some condition. The system asks if he confirms the character's appearance. He decides to do the tutorial all over again and maybe return when all of that is over. First, he needs to change the settings. In that other world, he fought very well without the combat assistant, so he will set it to 0%. The system moves on to the initial skills and asks him to select the element of his first core skill. Skills can be restored at any time. The skill system of that game serves to strengthen the character. By selecting the core element, he can strengthen himself with several other sub-elements. The entire structure, from the core to the sub-elements, is called a build. The number of elements is so vast that, in professional leagues, there are specialists dedicated to researching builds to find the best combination. Among them, the one who earned the title of superhuman was him. Currently, he is test object number 48. The microphone says that he awakened in the last experiment, which took place a week ago. He realizes that apparently the game will not show the process before awakening, because he doubts any player would actually want to experience that inside a game. The voice from the microphone says that they will begin the next experiment immediately. The door opens and they tell him to enter. In front of him was an etanel, a killing machine created to stop the awakened ones of the Transcendence Project when they went berserk. The reason several test objects lost their lives was precisely that. The system says that tutorial mission 1 is to defeat the etanel. He needs to fight that robot using his awakened ability. He thinks that this is an initial model, but he remembers what had happened to him. His companions were begging him to help because they were all being eliminated. Etanel charges at him, and it is the same thing. The researchers are always doing the most disgusting things possible. He awakens his ability and dodges the robot's attack, which continues attacking relentlessly, but the protagonist manages to dodge every blow with incredible ease and approaches, saying that the final model is a little difficult, but Since he can use skills, that initial model is absolutely nothing to him. He slams the Etnel into the ground, shattering the robot into several pieces. The researchers say that the experiment is complete, and that test object number 48 is truly incredible. The researchers emphasize that at that level, he is incomparable to the other test objects in terms of skill. The system announces that the mission has been completed. The researchers say that it is time to begin the next experiment. Suddenly, the entire room becomes strange and the alarm goes off. The researchers question what is happening, and apparently intruders have appeared. They are those people from the government. A woman grabs the microphone and says that this is a message for all the victims who were unjustly imprisoned in that laboratory. She emphasizes that they must use all the force necessary to get out of that place immediately. Upon hearing that, Woo Hyun recognizes that voice. The system says that the second tutorial mission is to escape from the laboratory. The laboratory begins to explode, and he thinks that he needs to get out of there immediately. While running through the corridor, he questions how many explosions have already happened, and the corridor is a complete mess. He looks at a soldier who is still alive but completely wounded on the floor and realizes that the mark on his clothes belongs to the interdimensional management company, and they are not enemies. The soldier asks if the protagonist is a victim, and the fact that he made it this far means he can escape, so he will help him with that. He presses a device and a panel full of weapons appears. The soldier says that he can feel free to choose whatever he wants. He hands the communication device to the protagonist, saying that he needs to take it because as soon as he is outside, he needs to send the signal and the company will come pick him up. But this was the soldier's final breath. He falls unconscious to the floor, and the protagonist questions whether he really died. Another robot appears. Woo Hyun was distracted, thinking that this is a game and that it is probably a necessary scene for his progress. He grabs one of the weapons from the wall and suddenly begins to feel something very strange. The souls appear again, and he questions what that feeling he is having is. A girl says that she cannot believe he is playing the biggest game in the country, and her hipster pride is in tears. She is Kang Soil, a professional game streamer. Her chat says that at least she knows she is a hipster. Another person says that she was the one who chose to play that game, but Soil gets angry, saying that she was not the one who chose it, her own audience did. Even so, a promise is a promise. She is a woman who would never break a promise made to her followers. But the viewers get confused, asking how many times she has already lied that a game would become famous. And that last time, she also said she was going to play a game and gave up. She celebrates, saying that she will finally pay the penalty for the challenge and play Reverse Planet, chosen by her followers. As soon as she enters the game, she thinks that she does not need to change her character's appearance, and as for her ability, she will choose something really cool like fire. And lastly, the combat assistant percentages, she had set it to 50%. With that, the combat assistant system helps with overall combat, including posture correction, movement assistance, and skill use correction. The higher the percentage, the greater the assistance. Her chat says that it has to be 0, asking if she can complete the tutorial without assistance. Soyul begins to question whether completing the tutorial without assistance is possible. She had done some research beforehand, and the percentage of users who play without assistance is practically 0%. She thinks that she acquired skill by playing other games, so she is quite confident about her settings. However, they say that trying to play without assistance is like trying to control a third arm, and that this is probably a very bad idea. She tells her followers that even if she wanted to play without any assistance, she receives a message saying that there is a mission, and if she can finish the tutorial without assistance, one of her followers will donate 500,000. She is impressed and says that this is something every quality streamer should try at least once. She emphasizes that she will play without assistance until she finishes the tutorial. A short time later, she was already exhausted and asks her followers if they are sure about this. She had been defeated 2 minutes after the Etnel appeared. She starts crying, saying that the game threw her into a fight with no experience, without explaining anything, and even caught her by surprise. Her followers agree, saying that it really is unfair and that even though she was defeated, 2 minutes is very good, because many professionals lose around that same time. A short time later, she says that she finally got a weapon, a radio, and now she only needs to escape from that place. The second mission appears for her, saying that she needs to escape from the laboratory and search for a group automatically. A group of 4 people is recommended, and she is surprised by this, because if she can finish that mission with a group, the mission will truly be completed. The viewers say that this is practically guaranteed. The system announces that the group search has failed, and she gets angry, questioning how it is possible that she cannot find a group, since this is a very big game and should have plenty of users. The system says that it is starting another search, but the search rate has been increased. The viewers question why it is not working and say that it only groups people who have the same combat assistance percentage. They also ask what kind of idiot would do the tutorial without a combat assistant. Soil gets irritated, asking if that means she needs to look for other players who are playing without combat assistance. Her viewers say that is exactly right. She needs a group without combat assistance, and it looks like no one will be able to help her in that game. She thinks that maybe she needs to cancel that mission, but suddenly the system announces that it has successfully found a group. She tries to cancel, but the system says that she is entering the already existing mission, Laboratory Escape. She starts being transported and thinks that now she is completely screwed. As soon as she is transported to another place, she comes across several people fallen on the floor and many defeated robots. She says that this is very strange, and her chat asks what that is, whether all of that is real and whether a group without assistance did that. Since all of that is insane, they ask if it is possible that there is some professional on a fake account, but another person answers that there is no professional capable of doing that in the tutorial without assistance. Besides that, he did not use any weapon to take down those robots. He finished them all off without assistance and without a weapon. Soyul gets excited, thinking that this is the perfect player to carry her, and because of that, she needs to find this person immediately. Meanwhile, the protagonist had already returned to the underworld inside himself. The demon he had been trying to keep locked away was released once again. He had exterminated everything and everyone that came near him. Woo-hyun was on maximum alert to hunt his prey. Suddenly, he hears something and looks to the side. Soyul appears and says, "Excuse me," asking if by any chance he is... But Woo-hyun charges at full force to attack her, though he stops at the last second. Soyul becomes desperate and hides, asking for help. The protagonist apologizes and says that he mistook her for something else, which is why he tried to attack her. Soyul cannot believe that the bloodbath she saw in the laboratory was caused by just one person. Woo-hyun says that he needs to go now. Soyul explains that she just joined his group and asks if she can follow him. While the two walk, she introduces herself, saying that her name is Soyul, that she is a streamer, and that she is live right now, asking if there is any problem with the protagonist appearing. She emphasizes that private mode is active, so his face will not appear. Woo-hyun stops walking, and Soyul becomes a little worried about that. Suddenly, more guards appear, saying that the test objects are escaping. The guards begin firing, and Soyul hides behind a piece of robot, questioning why that tutorial is so difficult. She remembers that the player who will carry her is also there, and becomes worried, asking if he is okay. But as soon as she looks at the protagonist, she sees that he was dodging the bullets as if they were nothing, eliminating the guards as if he were the true predator of that place. Her chat could not believe that the protagonist was so strong, because he looked like the Korean Spider-Man. Soyul says that she does not know much about that game, but this is already starting to look insane. Her chat questions how the protagonist can use a weapon like that without combat assistance. Woo-hyun continues destroying everyone around him, and the chat asks if anyone knows what kind of ability he is using. The chat says that, judging by the way he is using the chains, maybe it is wind. But another person disagrees, saying that if it were wind, it would be way too obvious, and maybe it is just telekinesis. Others were so impressed that they say they would not be able to last even a single second if they encountered someone that powerful in PvP. Suddenly, one of them says that the only core element that increases physical power and changes the color of the eyes is perfect being. Soyul is surprised and asks if that is not a horrible ability that prevents the person from using other abilities, because she had thought that no one would use it. But Woo-hyun kept mowing everyone down. Even her chat could not understand anything that was happening there. Perfect being is one of the key pillars among the countless traits of Reverse Planet. It gives a huge increase to physical attributes and resistance to abilities, but prevents the user from using other abilities. Because of this penalty, users see this ability as complete trash. Soyul finds that very strange, because not being able to use abilities in a game where abilities are important seems absurd. The viewers say that it really does seem very bad because they cannot even fight without abilities and have never seen anyone choose perfect being. Soyul thinks that, with absolute certainty, it is difficult to use abilities in a fight without assistance. So maybe it is worth giving up on the rest and putting everything into physical attributes. However, even so, the protagonist should still be level 1. So how is he moving like that? Who is that person, really? Woo-hyun moved and fought as if he were a specialist, tearing apart everything that appeared in front of him. The protagonist looks at the blade of his weapon, covered in blood, and the voices say that it is still not enough. He needs to be more violent in his revenge because they are still not satisfied with it. Suddenly, another guard appears and tries to hit the protagonist, but Soyul shouts for him to be careful and jumps in front, shooting at the guard. He gets scared and tries to hide, but Soyul manages to surprise him and finishes him off. The viewers praise her, saying that she did very well and that apparently she is very good at shooting. Soyul looks at the protagonist and smiles, saying that she helped. That makes Woo-hyun remember his past. Soyul calls out to him and asks if he is angry because she knows that all of that was thanks to the protagonist and she only helped a little. Woo-hyun says that is not true, that it is not exactly like that, and that he is not angry. She really helped. The viewers say that besides being very strong, the protagonist is also a very caring person and is definitely a very handsome man. Soyul gets excited and asks if that means she can keep staying with the protagonist to finish the tutorial, promising to help him as much as she can. Woo-hyun says that as far as he is concerned, it is fine. While they walk, she calls him Mr. Carey, but the protagonist says that his name is Baek Woo-hyun. Soyul asks if that can really be his name because it probably is not censored. She says that if it is not asking too much, she would like to know if he chose Perfect Being as his first core ability, and he says yes. The people watching are impressed, saying that apparently they will have to reevaluate the Perfect Being ability. Soyul asks how he can dodge bullets without abilities, and what other games he has played, but the protagonist answers dryly, saying that he has only played this one. Suddenly he stops again and she asks what is happening. The protagonist says that there are 2 Etnels 20 meters away. She is surprised and thinks that he does not even have a detection ability, yet he can still identify the distance and number of enemies. Woo-hyun emphasizes that it is nothing special and says that they have to keep walking. She follows him, thinking that this cannot be right, but as soon as they get a little closer, she realizes that he was actually right and the 2 robots were there. The Etnels charge forward to attack, and the protagonist walks slowly, saying that he used to like playing the Colosseum. Soyul becomes desperate, telling him to be careful. The robots begin attacking, but the protagonist dodges and, with a single blow, eliminates one of the robots with frightening strength. He continues explaining that when he played a lot, he became a ranker in the Colosseum. Once again, with just one movement, he completely blows up the other Etnel. The people cannot believe what they are watching because the 2 robots were destroyed as if they were nothing, and all of this without the game's assistance. Besides that, they say that now everything makes sense, because if he really is a Colosseum ranker, then obviously he is very powerful. Soyul is a little lost and asks if being a Colosseum ranker is really that incredible. Some people say that she is a cursed woman because she does not know how much that means. Some people in the chat also say that they do not know and ask if it is really that incredible. Another person says that apparently players these days know nothing, but Colosseum hunters used to receive professional offers, and Gladiator, the professional player, was also a ranker. As soon as she hears the name Gladiator, Soyul is shocked, asking if that is not the greatest professional player in the reverse planet scene. The viewers start questioning whether it is possible that the protagonist fought against Gladiator when he was a ranker. This brings up the question of what would happen if Gladiator and the Carey faced each other. Woo-hyun calls Soyul to keep walking. Finally, the last mission of the tutorial appears, and the same guy from before appears at the end of the corridor, asking if they really managed to make it there, because apparently they did not know that this place would become the site of their deaths. He is the laboratory's security chief and also the tutorial boss. The security chief asks them not to worry because soon they will meet their companions who were eliminated. Woo-hyun thinks that in fact everything that has happened so far was a tutorial, but suddenly he is surprised. All those souls that had been tormenting him begin to appear, saying that he finally managed to find that guy and they ask him to eliminate him immediately. The chief charges forward, saying that they will not leave there alive. Soyul prepares herself and begins firing her weapon, but the security chief simply blocks everything with his barrier. Soyul says that she thought particle barriers were only for the awakened. The viewers say that apparently the security chief is awakened. He is also a boss and has to have at least something more than the others. As soon as she realizes that her shots will have no effect, she retreats and hides, telling the protagonist that she wanted to provide cover from behind. The viewers say that she is calling the pack mule the moment she sees that she cannot do anything. Woo-hyun, who had been saying nothing and only analyzing the situation, says that this really is a game. He dodges the first attack and prepares to counterattack and emphasizes that if this satisfies all the souls inside him even a little, then he has to do it. He punches the chief in the ribs and throws him against the wall, causing a huge explosion. Soyul still cannot believe her companion's strength, while the other people start laughing, asking if the protagonist hit something and whether it is possible that the barrier malfunctioned. The chief gets up, cursing the protagonist. The commentators say that this is Iron Man and that this is the chief's ability. The security chief charges at him again, saying that he will tear him to pieces. Because of his ability, which transforms his body into iron, the chief's weight increased drastically, making his feet sink into the ground. But the protagonist dodges the blows, and the chief continues attacking, asking how long he will be able to keep dodging. His arm begins to rotate very quickly and starts destroying everything like a chainsaw. The people say that even a single blow from that chief using that ability could be fatal. Besides that, they would not be able to dodge a single attack from that chief even while using assistance. Woo-hyun clenches his fist and lands another blow on the chief, hitting him directly in the face. The souls continue approaching, and the protagonist tells the chief not to disable his Iron Man ability because he cannot die that easily. The souls ask Woo-hyun to tear that man to pieces, just as they were when he brutally eliminated everyone. The chief, trembling from so much pain, questions how a test subject can be so powerful. With an empty gaze, Woo-hyun says that it is all thanks to the chief. He begins to toy with the chief a little to show him what real pain is. Soyul looks at that and only sees pieces flying to the side. Sometime later, the system announces that he has defeated the laboratory's security chief. Soyul is so impressed that she asks if they are really watching this. The viewers say that the protagonist is truly incredible and that they need to remember that he is doing all of this without the help of assistants. However, they think that the protagonist acts very cruelly, as if he were used to beating those characters, so maybe he might be. Soil happily says that they finally managed to defeat the tutorial boss and now they only need to get out of there. The viewers say yes and that she was completely carried, but another asks why someone that good would be playing at that exact time. Soil calls Woo Hyun to leave that place and he stands up with his hands dripping, saying that she is right. The chief's body starts being dragged away by the souls. A short time later, she says that they finally managed to get out and the system announces that the laboratory escape tutorial mission has been completed. They managed to level up and gained 1 skill point. She asks the protagonist if he is going to continue with the main mission today. Woo Hyun says no and emphasizes that he needs to stop for a bit. Soil says that is fine and asks if he can wait a little because she has something to give him. He says yes, even though he is a little surprised by it. She speaks to her chat, and with that, the tutorial was completed without the use of assistants. The viewers start laughing, saying that she has no shame at all and that she should be on Forbes' list of the most carried streamers. However, they have to admit that it was incredible to watch. She says goodbye, saying that today's live stream was very fun and that she hopes to see them all tomorrow. After saying goodbye to the viewers, she returns to the protagonist, thanking him for waiting. Woo Hyun says that it is fine and asks what she wants. She smiles and, with a sweet voice, asks if he can join her live streams from time to time. Woo Hyun asks what she means by that. She explains that she mainly plays Reverse Planet's main missions and sometimes plays a little PvP. With her hands clasped together and her eyes shining, she begs, saying that she's sure she can stream at a very good time for him. Besides that, she can give him a good tip whenever he appears to help her. The protagonist thinks for a moment, but apologizes and refuses the offer. She ends up agreeing because she had realized from the protagonist's expression that he was clearly saying she would not be able to convince him otherwise, and asks if she can at least send him a friend request. He says that as for that, it is fine, they can be friends. She says goodbye to him and says that it was very fun playing with him. She hopes he has fun inside that game just like she does. A few seconds later, she disconnects and the system announces that she has left the game. The protagonist is left alone and says that the tutorial is over, questioning why he did not return to that world. Meanwhile, outside, the protagonist still did not know. In that game's community board, a headline had been posted telling everyone to look, because there was the reason why the player who did not use assistants or weapons was a hacker. The protagonist's name was in the headline, saying why he was a hacker. He did not know about the future that would happen just because he played. Besides that, an anonymous viewer donated $3,000, asking how he felt about returning to his original world. The next day, at the Korean branch of Planet Earth, the developer of Reverse Planet, the entire office was in chaos because of a single player. It was an unprecedented incident in the company's history. Everyone was watching the replay of the protagonist playing, saying that it was unbelievable even after rewatching it. No buffs, no assistants, and no weapons. And even so, he managed to defeat the security chief. The people inside the meeting were saying that the online community was already assuming that he was using some kind of cheat. Users were flooding the company's board with requests for an explanation about all of that. One of them asks if they are sure that he is not a hacker. One of the developers says that they are absolutely sure that it is not any kind of cheating. He emphasizes that they checked everything, even the records from the moment the character was created, and they found no evidence of cheating or injection of any external program. He emphasizes that they have seen many hackers over the years, but they have never seen anyone move like that. Even if someone used some kind of cheat, they would not have the precision the protagonist was demonstrating. The man coordinating the meeting says that if this is not some kind of cheat, then it means that player is a complete lunatic. Another person says that even so, there is an extremely small chance that it could be some new hack they have not been able to detect yet. The chief says that this is indeed true, and that is why they need a proper verification. Meanwhile, the protagonist was meeting with Nayeon and asks if the online community really is going crazy because of him. Excited, she shouts that yes, everything is in chaos. People even started a no modification challenge. On the community board, what was trending was the challenge saying that no buff and no weapons was impossible. If the user turns off all modifications, the abilities do not even activate. She emphasizes that many people tried countless times and nobody succeeded. And now everyone is saying that the protagonist is somehow cheating. She emphasizes that even she was shocked when she saw the video. Woo Hyun is confused and asks how she managed to recognize him, since his face was protected during that live stream. Nayeon explains that he had said his own name. Besides that, she emphasizes that she had already seen how the protagonist fought before, and already knew that he was very good, but not that good. So if a stranger saw all that skill in action, they would definitely think it could be some kind of cheating. Woo Hyun asks if that is why they contacted him. Nayeon is surprised and asks what he is talking about, but a few seconds later she realizes what the protagonist meant and shouts, asking if Planet Earth Korea contacted him. She stands up and hits the table, asking if they want to investigate whether the protagonist is cheating or not. Woo Hyun says that is exactly it. He explains that he received the message through the streamer who did that live stream. Nayeon says that using some kind of cheat would draw everyone's attention. She asks if he is really going to do it. Woo Hyun thinks that even if it is only the Korean branch, it is still his only chance to interact directly with the developers of that game. If someone with a high position appears, he might be able to get some clue about the other world. He emphasizes that he told them he would think about it, but he will probably accept. Nayeon asks if he is serious and says that this is a great choice. After all, if he continues being the talk of the town, it is better to justify himself. Hearing people call him a cheater wherever he goes is irritating. Woo Hyun says that he really does not care about those things, but it is fine and people would not be able to recognize him. It is not as if he showed his face in that live stream. Nayeon emphasizes that even with a different appearance, the protagonist's fighting style is very unique. Not even professionals fight without abilities. Nowadays, even professionals who hide their identities end up being discovered because of their fighting habits. Woo Hyun emphasizes that apparently people really are obsessed when they want to be. Nayeon sits down again and says that even after all of this, it is very good to know that her friend is going to do it. Otherwise, that streamer would have been heavily criticized. Woo Hyun is confused and asks why she would be attacked since she has nothing to do with the protagonist. Nayeon emphasizes that the people watching do not care about that. As soon as the drama starts, they will attack anyone even slightly related as a target. First, they will criticize the protagonist, but soon after, they will make her a target of criticism. Woo Hyun thinks that if that is the case, then he has no other choice. He sends a message to the streamer saying that he agrees to do it. Soyul is surprised to see that Woo Hyun actually accepted. And with all this expectation surrounding the protagonist, the viewer count on the live stream is going to explode. Soyul starts planning, saying that now all they have to do is wait, because her viewers will witness an unprecedented event in Reverse Planet's history. She releases a notice saying that there will be a hacker verification livestream soon. In the notice, she asks if everyone knows who's been famous these days. Woo Hyun and his cheating controversy will have a live stream to clarify these things. 4 days later, inside the game, Woo Hyun enters, and Soyul runs up to him saying that apparently things are very complicated for him, and apologizes, saying that this happened because of her. The protagonist says that it is fine and asks her not to worry. However, he needs to know if she suspects that he is using some kind of cheat. Soyul says no, because she witnessed the protagonist's movements with her own eyes. And to be honest, people's accusations have no foundation at all. She thinks that the most important thing is that the protagonist's eyes looked like those of a serial killer, and she does not think a cheater would look like that. She laughs, saying that it was just instinct. Woo Hyun is a little confused, but she changes the subject, asking if they can start the live stream. The protagonist says yes, and she begins the broadcast, thanking everyone for waiting for this moment. The viewers say that it is finally starting, and some people were insulting the protagonist, saying that he is just a cheater and that nobody likes him, while others said they even ordered a snack to watch him get exposed since he was clearly using some kind of cheat. Soyul is impressed to see that there are 10,000 people right at the start of the live stream, and that is insane. This number of people proves how much attention this controversy has drawn, and that is why she invited the protagonist again. Woo Hyun says hi to the viewers and introduces himself, saying his name. However, the viewers keep saying that he is just a shameless cheater, questioning what is fun about playing with a cheat as strong as that. On the other hand, some people were also defending him, saying that it was better not to jump to conclusions before seeing any real result, because normally when people start attacking like that, things always turn out to be the opposite. Soyul gets irritated with the viewers' reaction and asks them to calm down a little, because if they start insulting him for no reason, she will close the live stream or ban those people. She tells the protagonist that before the official verification, she would like to know what he thinks about all this talk that came out about him. Woo Hyun emphasizes that he thinks it is truly ridiculous that a little thing like that turned into something this big. The viewers cannot believe that he called that just a little thing, because he made the entire universe of that game go crazy, which shows that he is either just an arrogant hacker or a true Coliseum ranker. Soyul tells the protagonist that it was far too impressive to be called a little thing. The viewers begin to question how they are going to verify whether the protagonist is using some kind of cheat or if he really is just that good. Soyul says that this is a great question, and that is why they invited a specialist to perform the verification, and he should arrive at any moment. Suddenly, another man enters, and she says that he has finally arrived. The man introduces himself, saying that he is Park Gum-hyun, manager of Operation Team 1 at Planet Earth, Korea. The viewers go crazy, asking if she really brought an operations manager to prove that the protagonist is not a hacker, or if it is possible that this guy is just an actor. However, some people start saying that he has a GM tag above his head, and only employees authorized by headquarters have something like that. Woo Hyun thinks that an operations team manager has a high chance of knowing something. and after the verification, he needs to ask that guy a few questions. Soyul thanks the manager for appearing and introduces herself, saying that she is a streamer named Kang Soyul. The protagonist also introduces himself, and the manager says that it is a pleasure to meet them. But he keeps looking at the protagonist, thinking that he is the infamous Bak Woo-hyun, and that he looks very normal on the outside. Gyum-hyun explains that he will take them to the verification area now, and suddenly, they are teleported to another place. Soyul is impressed, asking if this is... The manager interrupts her and says yes, explaining that this is the private training room, and players use it to practice their skills or combat. As mentioned before, he will conduct several combat tests to check for any assistance from some kind of external program. Woo-hyun finds it a little strange, because he never saw a place like that in the other world where he was trapped for more than 10 years. Gyum-hyun asks if Woo-hyun agrees to the tests, and he says yes, emphasizing that he has nothing to hide. The manager says that he will begin and summons an intermediate-level Etnel. One of the viewers asks if someone without modifications, and with only his first core ability, will be able to defeat that thing, because the tutorial robot they defeated was nothing compared to the strength of this new robot. Gyum-hyun says that first, they will start with the intermediate-level training robot. The protagonist awakens his ability again, and something very bad takes over his body once more. The souls begin to embrace him, saying that they are scared and want revenge. Gyum-hyun starts reading, saying that now, basically, the match is for him to eliminate it, but before he can finish explaining, a very loud noise echoes and pieces fly around him. As soon as he looks to the side, he sees that the protagonist is no longer there. The noise continues and the pieces scatter more and more, while the verifier merely says that the protagonist must eliminate the targets. The viewers wonder if the protagonist is actually destroying an intermediate-level robot with his bare fists, because that robot was able to withstand 5 hammer blows without moving, and apparently, that boy is terrifying. Woo-hyun was tearing pieces off his prey even after winning the battle. Gyum-hyun verifies that no external program interference was detected. That situation is truly insane, and that boy is definitely not a cheater. As soon as Woo-hyun finishes going full Dexter, he looks at Gyum-hyun and says that he is ready now, they just need to put it in black bags and throw it into the sea. Gyum-hyun says that they were not able to detect any external program in that battle. However, he thinks that this may be because the verification time was too short. Gyum-hyun asks if the protagonist could fight in the way he specifies. Woo-hyun says yes, thinking that this is probably to check whether he is using any kind of auto-combat cheat. An auto-combat hack is fundamentally a program that uses some kind of system that sends commands as if it were you. So someone who uses that kind of cheat cannot adapt to specific methods. In that case, if it is decided beforehand how the fight must be won, then fighting according to what was said can prove that there is no problem. Gyum-hyun thanks him for his understanding and tells the protagonist that, this time, he needs to cut off the heads of 3 intermediate-level robots with his scythe. Woo-hyun says that he understands and has received the mission. Gyum-hyun thinks that this is obviously disadvantageous for the protagonist. He releases the 3 robots, thinking that even so, he cannot imagine that boy losing a fight. The 3 Etenels attack simultaneously, but the protagonist manages to dodge all 3 attacks and charges forward. In a matter of seconds, he cuts down all his opponents, ending the battle quickly. Soyul shouts excitedly, saying that she knew she had not been seeing things, and asks if her viewers saw those scythes moving as if they were alive. The people are also impressed, asking what they just watched and saying that the scythe is extremely strong. But others say that actually it is not that the weapon is powerful, but that the user makes it dance as if it were a dance of death, eliminating everything around him. Gyum-hyun thinks that with this, he has already collected enough data for the verification. But as an administrator of that game, he is dying of curiosity. Can the protagonist win against the advanced level training robot with only 1 core ability? Gyum-hyun thinks that he knows he is doing something wrong, but even so, he needs to see it. A little anxious, he says that, lastly, they need to verify one more thing. The door begins to open, and a robot different from the others, with red eyes and a female humanoid body appears. The viewers say that they cannot believe it, because Gyum-hyun is already exaggerating the evaluation. He should not have brought that monster, because if the protagonist manages to win against his new opponent, he will have to receive a reward from the game itself. Gyum-hyun explains that they will proceed with the verification using the advanced training robot. That is an advanced training robot, the latest version of Etenel. Woo-hyun simply remains silent, staring at his opponent. He remembers that this same robot had eliminated all his companions as if they were nothing but bags of meat. Because of that, the protagonist becomes extremely furious. The robot tries to attack him, and with its attack, the pressure around its fists is extremely powerful. Woo-hyun manages to dodge the first attack, suffering only a small scratch. But the robot continues attacking several times in a row. The air displaced by the movements of that robot's fists was causing massive destruction to the door behind him. Woo-hyun thinks that this was expected. Intermediate robots cannot even compare to that robot. and it will be terrible if one attack hits him, not to mention her absurd defense. That robot is on a completely different level from the other things he has faced so far. His attack caused no damage at all to her body. The advanced Edenel tries to attack once again, but the protagonist dodges, saying that in that case, he will hit her until he starts causing damage. Woo Hyun stops holding back and begins attacking non-stop. The sounds of the fight between the two are terrifying, leaving Gyumhyun and Soyeol speechless. The viewers say that they are at a loss for words, because this is incredible, and they do not even know how it can be possible. If the protagonist takes even a single hit, it is over. But he does not seem like he's going to let that happen so easily. Gyumhyun cannot believe that this boy is managing to fight on equal footing and dodge the advanced robot's attacks with only one core ability. Before, it seemed like he was at a disadvantage, but now he is the one gaining the advantage against the robot's attacks. Woo Hyun continues improving himself and intensifying the strength and speed of his attacks and movements with every second. With every exchange blow, he seems to grow stronger and stronger. Gyumhyun thinks that apparently there is nothing left to verify and removes the advanced robot from there before he destroys her. Gyumhyun says that he himself removed the training robot since enough data for the verification had been collected. Woo Hyun says that he finally understands because he had been wondering why that robot disappeared. Soyeol asks the analyst what the result of the verification was. Gyumhyun emphasizes that it was clearly confirmed that no external programs were involved. In short, the protagonist is not a cheater. The viewers are impressed, asking how that is possible and how he is not using any kind of cheat. Other people say that the administrator just said, "He is clean," which means the accusations had no basis at all to try to do anything against the protagonist. Besides that, the post accusing him of being a cheater has just been deleted. Soyeol goes to her chat and says that she already said the protagonist was not using any kind of cheat, but they doubted her. The viewers say that they never doubted that boy's strength. Besides that, the administrator confirmed it, so not even those idiots who only want to ruin things will be able to mess with that boy. They have also already seen people calling the protagonist Haxical or something like that, and now it makes sense why. Soyeol smiles, saying that she likes that name. She says that it is finally over and asks everyone to make sure they remember this. Woo Hyun never used hacks. He simply has mechanics that make him look superhuman. She says that the verification is over now and the protagonist can tell them how he feels, but he simply says, "Thank you," and the analyst laughs, saying that it was fun. Soyeol says goodbye to the live stream, saying that she will end it now and hopes to see them all next time. She had more than 100,000 concurrent viewers. As soon as she closes the live stream, she thanks the protagonist and the analyst for agreeing to appear on her broadcast. Gyumhyun says that they are the ones who deserve thanks for accepting the verification request, especially the protagonist. Woo Hyun says that it was nothing and that it is fine. Gyumhyun begins leaving the game thinking about how the protagonist can say that it was nothing because he is a true monster. He says goodbye and says that he is leaving, but Woo Hyun asks him to wait, saying that he would like to ask a question. Gyumhyun is surprised and says that he can ask whatever he wants. The protagonist wonders if that game had any bugs before, and whether it would be possible for someone to have been trapped inside the game for a long time. Gyumhyun thinks about the matter for a bit and says that he is not sure if he has ever heard of anything like that because if there were such a serious bug, the game would not have become so famous. The protagonist simply nods, saying that the analyst has a point. Gyumhyun disconnects from the game and leaves. Soyeol takes a deep breath, saying that now it is finally over, and goes to the protagonist once again, thanking him for everything he did. Besides that, she's thinking about splitting the livestream revenue with him and asks if it would be okay to contact him a little later. Woo Hyun thinks that he does not really need that, but says he understands and asks her to contact him whenever she needs to. But Soyeol thinks that she cannot let Woo Hyun escape so easily because he is a walking money farm. Woo Hyun notices that she was staring at him without saying anything and asks if something happened and if there is something she wants to say. Soyeol becomes embarrassed, thinking that she cannot force herself to ask the protagonist if he wants to participate in her livestream again, because the only reason he accepted was because he needed that chance to explain himself. Maybe it is better not to force it and cross the line. Not knowing exactly what to say, she simply thanks him. And he says it was nothing. She says that she will call him a little later and disconnects from the game. As soon as the protagonist is alone, he thinks that he did not get as much information as he expected, and that is a little disappointing. Suddenly, he receives a message from Nayeon saying that the live stream is over and that she will meet him in the preparation room. As soon as the two meet, she starts shouting, asking how it was to live stream for the first time, because the community is in chaos right now. Woo Hyun says that maybe it does not suit him very much, and that he needs to keep an eye on what people are saying while he plays, so he did not really like the experience. Nayeon says that she understands and grabs his arm, asking what he thinks about just playing without needing to care about what people are saying. Woo Hyun is a little hesitant to answer, thinking that he just does not want to live stream and expose himself to other people. But Nayeon excitedly hits the table, saying that she will handle everything else, and the protagonist can decide after they test it. But now, they need to play some PvP. PvP is player versus player, one-on-one combat, the famous 1v1 by the river. It is a game mode where players compete against each other, and one of the two biggest modes. Woo Hyun is surprised, questioning if that is really why she called him there out of nowhere. She says that this is obvious and scolds her friend, saying that he was going to leave without even playing with her a little. Woo Hyun explains that he was feeling like that game did not suit him, and because of that, he was going to stop playing for a while, since he also has no desire to return to that world. Nayeon pouts again and explains that PvP is one of the main contents, so he cannot jump straight to conclusions after playing only the tutorial. The protagonist thinks that PvE, the story mode, is very similar to the other world where he was trapped, but everything he is seeing in PvP seems to be new, so there must be something different in the story mode. He ends up agreeing with her, saying that he will try it. Nayeon is happy with that decision and says that she will explain in detail how PvP works. First comes Duel, which is literally a confrontation against matched opponents. There are two game modes, first one-on-one, and there is also Duo, which is 2-on-2. The first to reach 3 victories wins. Next is War, King of the Hill, Escort, Capture the Flag, and Deathmatch. This mode lets the protagonist choose a game mode and fight in a team of up to 5 people. And lastly, and also the one they're going to play, is called Survival. 100 people are scattered across several areas, get equipment, and fight. And since this is his first time, they can go as a team. Besides that, she emphasizes that he needs a build to play PvP, and if he wants, she can recommend one for him. Woo Hyun says that it is fine because he already knows a very good build. He thinks that this build is the reason he was called Superman in the other world. He emphasizes that he will fix his build while she starts the match. She gets excited and says that they will start now. She emphasizes that they will start at the most popular starting point, the military base, a field in survival mode within PvP mode, and a place where various high-level pieces of equipment are well distributed. Because high-level players infest the place, it is not recommended for beginners. Nayeon tries to appeal to the protagonist's sentimental side, asking if he minds if she records him playing PvP. She explains that she wants to post it on YouTube and asks if that is okay with him. Woo Hyun simply says yes, thinking that he just wanted her to get off him, and questions why she is so excited, since he does not really understand what is happening. Nayeon says that now everything is settled and that they need to start the match immediately. The system says that the starting point has been set to the first area, the military base, and the game will begin in 60 seconds. Nayeon smiles and says goodbye, saying that she will see him inside the military base. The protagonist and another player appear in the same place. The first player asks if he is the runner from floor number 30. No one wanted that place because it is terrible. He says that he will go somewhere else first, but before he can finish, Woo Hyun begins hunting his prey. Nayeon, who is somewhere else, receives the notification saying that the protagonist has already eliminated one person and is surprised. However, she thinks that this is somewhat plausible considering that guy's skills. But the truth is that she still did not know that she had brought a demon into a battlefield full of prey for him. The system appears countless times, saying that Woo Hyun eliminated someone. Nayeon cannot believe the number of players the protagonist has already eliminated and asks what the hell he is doing. Woo Hyun kept eliminating everyone who appeared in front of him. As soon as he eliminates the last player, he thinks that he does not feel anyone else's presence and questions if that was the last one. Even so, he did not expect to have to face 4 people at once as soon as the game began. And now that he is finished there, it is time to leave that place. Suddenly, he receives a message from Nayeon asking for help because she was surrounded. He opens the map to see where she is and sees that she is in the block after the road very far away. He replies to her, saying that he is on his way and asks which part of the building she is in. Nayeon says that she is on the roof of the 3rd floor, but she heard a lot of noise from the lower surroundings, so she thinks someone is fighting on the lower floors. The protagonist says that he understands and starts heading there quickly. He approaches and comes across 2 people. They get scared, asking how that guy can be so fast. The man's companion tells him to get ready because he is going to use his ability. But before he can finish speaking, the protagonist takes his knife and tears off his opponent's arm. The other man asks what that was because the protagonist is using a physical type build based on dexterity. He gets irritated, releases his power, and says that he will eliminate him. But the protagonist dodges easily and charges at the man, finishing him with a single blow. He continues running to help his teammate, eliminating everyone in front of him. He sends her a message saying that he is at the front gate of the building. Nayeon asks if he wants her to come down to help him, but the protagonist says no and asks her to wait upstairs. As soon as he touches the door to open it, he realizes that there are 5 people inside. As soon as he enters, one tries to attack him, but Woo Hyun manages to grab the man's attack and quickly finishes him, saying that maybe he needs to go even faster. He begins climbing the floors at an impressive speed, eliminating people as if they were nothing but rats in his path. Nayeon cannot believe what she is seeing because the protagonist is basically a smurf on a beginner account. Suddenly, she senses a completely overwhelming presence behind her and turns around, asking when that presence appeared. The protagonist quickly dodges the attack and she sighs in relief, saying she was startled because she didn't realize it was him until he was right behind her. And that is what should be expected from someone who has 14 eliminations by himself. Woo Hyun looks at her attack and begins to question whether she really needed him. Nayeon asks if he has already defeated all the enemies there, but the protagonist just keeps questioning what kind of weapon she is using. She explains that it was the only thing she managed to find around there. She smiles and says that it is fine. Besides that, she cannot lose to the protagonist, and now that they are together, she will carry him for the rest of the game. Woo Hyun takes a deep breath and says that as far as he is concerned, that is fine. A short time later, the system says that the game is over and the duo's survival game mode has ended. The result is that they came in first place. Woo Hyun eliminated 25 people and gave 7 assists. Nayeon managed to eliminate 7 people and gave 15 assists. They repeat it and play a few more times. Sometime later, Nayeon was already exhausted and says that they won 10 times in a row. She cannot play anymore, so she would rather stop for a bit. The protagonist says that it is fine, and she thinks that she never imagined that a friend of hers, whom she thought was just a normal college student, was actually an elimination machine, so she is even more determined to make him record with her. Nayeon asks if he can wait for her for about 2 days before doing his main missions, because she will bring him an official offer. Woo Hyun emphasizes that he already said he is not interested. Besides that, he was not thinking about doing the main missions, because his objective is something else. He only needs to eliminate everything and everyone to satisfy the corrupted souls that are chasing him. Nayeon asks him to at least listen to what she has to say, because she promises to bring a good offer and will see him later. She disconnects from the game and the protagonist is alone again. He thinks that, in the end, he also did not manage to find any clues in PvP mode. Meanwhile, in the real world, in Soyul's room, she was lying on her bed looking at the news on the game's community board. People were saying that the protagonist should become a professional. Besides that, many people were commenting about the verification livestream that happened that day. Soyul is happy with that whole situation, saying that she won the lottery because she managed to get more than 100,000 viewers and wonders if that would happen again in her live streams. So she would really like to keep live streaming with him, and maybe she should have tried a little harder. Soyul remembers that the protagonist had said he was not interested in live streaming and seemed very determined. She thinks that the best solution for now is to pay him his share right away and goes to check how much they managed to make in that live stream. But as soon as she looks, she is surprised. The next day in a cafeteria, Woo Hyun goes to meet Nayeon, saying that he was wondering why she called him so suddenly. As soon as he sits at the table, he sees a computer with a somewhat strange screensaver and asks what it is. Nayeon, who was very excited, says that she spent the entire night making that PowerPoint just to convince him. The protagonist is surprised to see that she really spent the entire night making that. She emphasizes that the protagonist had said that it was fine as long as he only needed to play during the live streams. Woo Hyun emphasizes that this was not exactly what he said, but she keeps saying that she was thinking that maybe a react could be the solution. Woo Hyun asks what exactly that is, and she explains that it is a broadcast format where several cast members gather in a studio and watch recordings of the other members. Nayeon explains that her idea is that he only needs to play, and she will be the commentator. And if he thinks that she alone will not be enough, she can bring professionals from that field to create a little more communication inside the game without him needing to say anything. They can split the profit 60% to 40%, and she asks what he thinks of that proposal. Woo Hyun simply says that he already said he is not interested. Nayeon says that maybe he does not know how much profit live streams really make. She remembers that he did a live stream with Soyul and that she has probably already given him his share recently. The protagonist says that now that they are talking about it, he just remembered that he received an email from her early in the morning, but he did not read it because he was called to the cafe. He takes out his phone to check the email. The email said that there was his first installment. The first installment was 6 million, as she had promised. She asked him to reply to the email with the bank account number where he would like her to send the money. Besides that, she also managed to find some very funny donation messages, so she would like to share them with him. Nayeon is impressed by the amount and asks if he really was not interested in continuing to livestream or create content because 6 million is a lot of money. However, the protagonist was interested in the messages she said she had received. As soon as he looks at the messages, he realizes that it is. An anonymous viewer was saying hello to him, saying that it is very good to see him again and asking how he feels about returning to his true world because he has a special mission to share and, from then on, he would watch him whenever he was live streaming. Woo Hyun thinks that this anonymous viewer knows that he returned from that place, and that nickname must be a hint to say that he knows the protagonist is number 62. Because of that, he needs to know who that guy is and how he knows that the protagonist returned. Woo Hyun asks Nayeon if it is impossible to find information about donors. She is surprised, asking why he wants to know that, and says that probably not since they have privacy policies. She emphasizes that because of those policies, he cannot even send messages to those people, so he will only be able to talk to them during a live stream. Woo Hyun says that he needs to do that. Nayeon is surprised and asks what he means. He confirms that he will do the live streams. Nayeon becomes very happy and asks if he is serious, saying that he cannot go back on his word. A notice is released saying that shocking news will take over the entire scene. Woo Hyun, known by the community as Haxical, has started live streaming. They will bring some content at 7 o'clock in the evening on August 2nd, 2041. The newcomers will be Haxical, Cha Sungchul, and Nayeon. A Friday night is special, a day when everyone enjoys what they like in their own way. Those who proudly call themselves nerds sit at their computers waiting for the same things. The chat was already excited, saying that there were only 5 minutes left and that, apparently, Sungchul was a league commentator for War Mode. Everyone was waiting for Haxical's livestream. 5 minutes before the livestream started, in the filming studio inside the game, Nayeon was trembling with worry. Sungchul asks her to relax because they have already prepared everything, so there should not be any problem. He emphasizes that when he was called to participate in today's livestream, he was also very nervous. He is Cha Sungchul, the professional commentator of Reverse Planet. He emphasizes that he never imagined there would be anyone besides Soil capable of calling Haxical to record. Nayeon simply smiles, thinking that as soon as she said she was the protagonist's friend, he immediately promised to appear on the livestream. The 5 minutes pass and the livestream begins. She gets nervous, saying that it is already time to start, and the commentator says that everything is fine. As soon as the livestream opens, she says hello to everyone and introduces herself. Sungchul does the same and says that he is a professional commentator. Everyone's first question is where Haxical is. She reads the comments and says that apparently many of them are confused because they are not seeing the protagonist there. However, she needs to say that it is still too early for them to be disappointed because Haxical is already in the game. The broadcast switches to inside the game, showing the protagonist, and everyone goes crazy, saying that everyone who doubted now needs to shut up and that he is spinning the knife like a CS character, and that is very good. Nayeon emphasizes that, as everyone has already understood, the content of Hackleave will be done in a React format. They will be commenting while watching the protagonist play. Besides that, she is sure that everyone is curious to know how Haxical will play now, and they can find out how he will do it together. She sends a message to Woo Hyun saying that he can start now. The protagonist thinks that apparently it is time and sends the signal. The radio says that the Interdimensional Management Agency has received that message. The main mission is to rescue the survivors so they can safely escape the forest and regroup. To enter the Interdimensional Management Agency, he needs to get past the guards who are looking for the escaped test subjects and reach the agency, which is located outside the forest. Woo Hyun thinks that it is exactly like last time. In that world, he only focused on escaping, but now things will be different. He takes the deepest breath he can and shouts very loudly, saying that he is right there. The nearby guards hear that noise and begin organizing themselves, saying that they need to attack from all sides. The guards approach and quickly charge forward. The protagonist's thirst for revenge surfaces again, and he activates his awakened ability, saying that he needs to kill everyone present. The souls appear again, waiting for their meal, saying that they need revenge. The armed guards begin shooting, but the protagonist dodges every bullet and uses his scythe to strike one of the weapons, causing a huge explosion. He keeps advancing, and the guards say that he is an idiot because he is heading straight to his death. But with his scythe and chains, the protagonist easily dominates them, throwing them to the ground and finishing them off as if they were nothing but cockroaches. Woo Hyun continues acting purely on his hunter's instinct. Nayeon is impressed, saying that this is not the game she knows. Sungchul emphasizes that he has never seen anyone play like that in his entire career as a professional commentator for that game, because the protagonist does not have a strategy. He simply gathers all the enemies and eliminates them. The audience keeps praising him, saying that Haxical does not need a strategy and that it takes too long to look for enemies one by one, so he made all of them come straight to him, and that is just the basics. The viewer named My Beloved Cat donates 50,000, saying that the perfect being ability is completely broken because apparently it has no cooldown. Nayeon asks what Sungchul thinks of My Beloved Cat's comment. Sungchul emphasizes that at this moment he cannot say that the comment is wrong. Most abilities have a proper cooldown. Because of that, Haxical's build may seem very powerful because of the way he uses his core ability without needing to worry about cooldowns. But perfect being only improves the user's physical attributes. It does not affect their sense of combat or their skill with weapons. Besides that, the protagonist has no buffs. To put it a little exaggeratedly, Haxical would be able to fight that way in real life if he had the same physical ability that he has inside the game. In other words, only Haxical can show the true potential of perfect being. The protagonist keeps eliminating people and new guards appear, telling everyone to surround him. However, these new guards were not there to attack him. A man introduces himself saying that he is from the Interdimensional Management Agency and asks the protagonist to drop his weapon and surrender. He is Kim Chul. The Interdimensional Management Agency is a government agency that eliminates invading entities that come out of dimensional rifts. Their work mainly involves capturing and eliminating dangerous invading entities inside Reverse Planet where dimensions merge. The protagonist drops his scythe and raises his hands, saying that he is Director Kim. In truth, he was a team leader back then, and Woo Hyun did not expect to meet him there. Kim Chul notices the clothes the protagonist is wearing and says that he must be a victim who escaped from the laboratory, so he would like to apologize and ask forgiveness for mistaking him for the enemy. Woo Hyun says that it is fine and shows a radio, saying that an agent inside the laboratory gave it to him. Kim Chul says that he understands and thinks that the agent who handed it over was probably eliminated. Woo Hyun thinks that Kim Chul is still sentimental, just like he used to be in the other world. Kim Chul says that, in that case, the protagonist needs to stay at the Interdimensional Management Agency until they confirm his identity, because there are cases of laboratory employees pretending to be test subjects. Woo Hyun says that as far as he is concerned, that is fine. Kim Chul thanks him for his cooperation and says that he will guide him to the base. The system announces that the main mission is complete and he managed to level up, gaining 1 skill point. A short time later, at the headquarters of the Interdimensional Management Agency, the protagonist was inside the counseling room. He had never been there before. In the other world, he raised money for his revenge by accepting missions from a corporation after escaping from the laboratory. He accepted any kind of request, assassination, kidnapping, but the biggest one was monster subjugation. The corporation asked him to eliminate monsters from the reverse world in exchange for payments and kept the spoils of battle. Whenever the corporation considered the spoils useless, the cleanup work ended up falling to him. Doing that caused him to have frequent contact with the agency. There were times when they cooperated in subjugation operations, but there were also times when conflicts arose and they ended up pointing their swords at each other. Suddenly, a woman enters the room and greets the protagonist, saying that her name is Lee Yujin and that she is an agent from Team 1 of the agency. The commentators say that this woman is in the top 10 most beautiful women in video games. Yujin takes a chair and talks to the protagonist, saying that it must have been very difficult for him to make it there, and that now he has 2 choices. The first is to live as a normal person under the agency's protection. If he chooses this option, he will be forbidden from using his ability. The second is to become an agent of the agency. If he chooses the latter option, obviously he will not start acting as an official agent right away. He will go through training, and as soon as they decide that he is ready, he will be sent on missions. Woo Hyun thinks that he was responsible for eliminating one of the agents of that agency in his other world, but now they are asking him to become allies. Yujin asks what he will choose. The commentators say that he cannot even dream of stopping now. Woo Hyun thinks that if he chooses to become a citizen, he will end up having to accept corporate contracts just like before, and he does not want to walk the same path again. He was also curious about the agency's internal affairs. Because of that, he says that he chooses to become one of the agents of that place. Yujin becomes happy, saying that he made the right decision and that adding him to the team will be a great help. Lately, the corporations have been recruiting the Awakened, so they are short on agents at the moment. She emphasizes that she is not saying this just because she is an agent. However, she has heard that many people regretted signing contracts with corporations. Since they are still in the early stages of Awakened training, they lack specialized personnel. They do not even take responsibility for accidents that happen during training. In contrast, the agency is an organization with a long history. Besides that, they possess great knowledge in training the Awakened and subjugating the reverse world. Obviously, the corporations offer better benefits, but their missions have a high chance of being far more dangerous. The protagonist thinks that, in the other world, there were many Awakened who lost their lives during those corporate missions. They even refused to pay for some missions. In the end, he had to use force to make them hand over the money one way or another. Because of that incident, they found out that he was an unregistered Awakened, and he ended up being pursued by the agency for a while. It was around that time that he met Director Kim Chul. Yujin says that now she will request his Awakened registration from the intelligence team, and that this phone is used for work. Woo Hyun asks where he should start. She emphasizes that, as she said before, he will receive training and be promoted as soon as they have confirmed the ability he possesses. That will also be when his team is decided. She emphasizes that she really hopes he is sent to Team 1, which is the team she is on. Woo Hyun stands up, saying that, honestly, he hopes for the same thing. He thinks that he owes her for what he did in the other world. Even though she insisted several times, thanks to her taking the lead in the attack on the laboratory, his companions and he were able to survive. The two greet each other and say that they hope to have great cooperation between them. Nayeon says that this is a little strange, because the protagonist is having such a natural conversation with an NPC. She had thought that they could not communicate with NPCs inside the game like that. Sungchul simply trembles, because when he had done that same mission, Yujin only kept repeating the same question, asking whether he would like to become a civilian or an agent, because that was how she seemed before. Sungchul, still trembling, says that this is impossible and that he cannot believe she seems to be a fully adaptive AI. The viewers are also impressed, saying that this game is a true marvel, because they did not know that something like this could be possible. A fully adaptive artificial intelligence is an artificial intelligence NPC that can respond to any situation or request. Unlike existing NPCs, it can communicate freely and endlessly. Sungchul emphasizes that it is a technology that consumes so many resources that most people believed it would be impossible to implement it in a game. Nayeon questions whether it is possible that the developers solved that resource problem. He says that this is probably not the case because if it were true, they would not have made it an Easter egg. They would be advertising it everywhere because it would attract a huge amount of attention to the game. So the only option might be that the player needs to meet a certain condition to unlock this function. The minimum requirement for that is probably starting without combat assistance. That is the only difference between Haxical and the other players. Nayeon thinks that the protagonist really is on another level and cannot be compared to anyone. She laughs, saying that this is something that will probably blow up in the community. Sungchul emphasizes that, personally, he will stay awake because of how anxious he is about what planet Earth will announce. He thinks that, since she is also interested in the story of that game, he is sure she will be very intrigued by that situation, and maybe he can bring a very famous guest to the livestream. Sungchul emphasizes that it is a shame, but as Nayeon said before, the protagonist was only going to play up to that point. Nayeon confirms that this is right and tells everyone that they can look forward to the next livestream. If they are curious for more, they will switch the content to PvP. People say that she cannot simply end it like that because how are they supposed to endure waiting until the next livestream? Meanwhile, in the preparation room, the protagonist was waiting, thinking that anonymous viewer 62 still has not appeared. He remembers that before all of this, he had set a condition to participate in the live streams, saying that if she found any donation or comment from someone called Anonymous Viewer 62, she needed to contact him and inform him immediately, no matter what situation she was in. And seeing how she did not say anything, he will need to continue the live stream for now. He announces that he is ready for PvP. Nayeon announces on the live stream that now they are going to PvP mode, and the game mode will be Clash. She emphasizes that just so everyone is aware of the situation, this is the protagonist's first time playing Clash mode. Sungchul explains that in that case, he will start in the normal league. For those who do not know, there are a total of 8 rankings in Reverse Planet, which are Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Master, Grandmaster, and Contender. To reach Bronze rank, the player needs to win 10 times in the normal league. He emphasizes that the statistics show that an above-average player takes around 30 minutes, and a normal player around 2 hours. One of the viewers says that apparently they are well below average, and apparently that game is full of smurfs, so they need to get lucky in their matches. Suddenly, a mission is sent saying that if he manages to reach Bronze rank in 30 minutes, they will receive 500,000. She is impressed and sends a message to the protagonist, saying that they hit the jackpot because a mission appeared, and this is the first mission. She asks if he can win 10 games in less than 30 minutes. Woo-hyun simply gestures with his hand, saying that it is fine. The viewers start laughing, saying that this is truly what they can call confidence. And professionals are professionals for a reason. However, the protagonist is already on another level, even a little arrogant. Nayeon says that this is getting very fun. Sungchul agrees and says that now they will watch until the end to see if Kimchul can complete this mission. The system says that PvP mode, solo normal mode, has successfully matched and he is taken to the 6th residential area. Another player appears and the system says that there are 10 seconds left before the round begins. Sungchul is surprised, saying that the protagonist is using a weapon he has never seen before. Woo-hyun holds his 2 swords, and his opponent thinks that this is a melee build, and if the protagonist cannot get within range, this will be even easier. But that was when they realized just how much they were underestimating Haxical. The system announces that the first round has begun, and the protagonist's opponent charges at him, but in less than a second, the man is cut in half. The protagonist simply eliminates him before he can even say a sentence. The system says that the end of the match has been concluded. The winner is the protagonist, and he already has 1 victory. As soon as the next match begins, the opponent becomes completely desperate, saying that he is probably another Smurf and immediately surrenders. The system announces that the opponent has surrendered, and the winner is once again the protagonist. He moves on to another round. The man tries to attack him, but is also easily defeated. The story repeated itself countless times. In this way, the amount of time the protagonist took to get 10 consecutive victories was only 20 minutes. The system announces that he has managed to rise to Bronze rank. Nayeon says that it was incredible, but that she feels like a complete loser because she is Diamond rank and has never seen that happen. The chat continues going crazy, People were asking what was happening there because the protagonist managed to break every previously recorded record. Sungchul emphasizes that even though the total time was incredible, what is even more impressive are the battle results. Normally, people end up having problems when they need to face counter builds or risky builds, but Haxical did not care what his opponent was using during his matches. He constantly showed perfect performance, which means that this was complete annihilation. None of his opponents could even breathe. Pinecone donates 500,000, saying that they cannot believe he actually managed to complete the mission. Nayeon becomes very happy and thanks them for the donation, saying that she is very excited to see how the protagonist will do in the ranked matches that are coming next. Sungchul says that he is also excited but a little worried. Nayeon asks what he's talking about. Sungchul explains that they are live streaming, so it will be easy for someone to snipe the protagonist. Even so, doing that is not an easy task, so he really hopes his concern is nothing serious. One viewer says that the commentator just jinxed everything with that comment, and as Gall's already taught, the jinx really works. Woo Hyun enters Clash in solo ranked mode and is taken to the 11th area called Cemetery. The challenger enters saying that he finally managed to do it. He emphasizes that he finally found the bastard from the chat because he was sure that he was paying attention to the live stream, and says that he will finish off the filthy hacker who is bragging. The chat cannot believe that this happened so quickly because he was sniped in the very first ranked match, and they question how that guy managed to do it since he must be used to it. Woo Hyun says nothing and simply grabs his swords. Sungchul says that apparently Haxical was not affected by that provocation. Nayeon emphasizes that she had told him to just ignore it when that happened. The two prepare themselves and the battle begins. The challenger releases all his power and charges at the protagonist with everything he has, saying that the useless cheater will be exposed now. Woo Hyun dodges every attack with impressive ease. The audience starts laughing, saying that the idiot who tried to challenge the protagonist will not be able to hit anything, and that the match is probably already over, so now they need to move on to the next one. Woo Hyun thinks that he wanted to give his opponent a chance because he seemed very confident, however, it was just a waste of time. He finishes the challenger with a single blow, and the system says that the end of the match has arrived. The winner was the protagonist. Before being completely eliminated, the challenger says that he is a true monster and should not be there. The next round was about to begin in 10 seconds, and the challenger becomes desperate, thinking that he is embarrassing himself. At this rate, he will lose again, so he needs to use that. The second round finally began, and the man was completely different. His body was larger, and his muscles and energy also seemed bigger. Woo Hyun thinks that his opponent's appearance changed a little. The challenger charges forward, and the protagonist keeps dodging, while thinking that his attacks are more precise and heavier than before. His movements are extremely efficient, as if he were an Etanel. The challenger starts laughing and keeps calling the protagonist a cheater, asking if he understands now. He emphasizes that he was going easy on him in the first round, but now he will show his true power. Woo Hyun hears that he is being called a cheater again and thinks that he will have to do it. Nayeon emphasizes that it is true and that she had told the protagonist that if he encountered someone who called him a cheater, he should completely destroy that person. Woo Hyun activates Perfect Being. The challenger becomes a little scared, asking what that is, because the protagonist's presence became terrifying completely out of nowhere. However, he thinks that he does not need to be afraid because no matter how he thinks about it, he still has the advantage. He advances again, saying that the protagonist needs to stop trying to be something he is not, because he is nothing more than a cheater. But Woo Hyun simply moves so fast that it is almost impossible to see what he does. He lands a direct blow on the challenger. The blonde man turns around, cursing the protagonist, but Woo Hyun was already on the other side and tears off one of his opponent's arms. The blonde man keeps trying to attack, but the protagonist continues striking, humiliating the challenger and playing with his prey. Nayeon becomes a little embarrassed, saying that the protagonist is not eliminating his enemy on purpose. Sungchul agrees, saying that Haxical is properly following what she told him. Woo Hyun was basically torturing his opponent, attacking only to wound him and not eliminate him, as if he wanted to play around a little before winning. Nayeon tries to explain herself, saying that she told the protagonist to finish off his opponent, but she did not think he would do that. The chat says that she created a monster, that she is a terrifying woman, and that it is all her fault, since she was the one who told him to do that. Meanwhile, in the cemetery, the challenger was completely defeated, with his body cut up and leaning against a tombstone. He complains that he cannot do anything and asks what the protagonist really is. But Woo Hyun simply turns his sword, saying that he returns the challenger's own words back to him and finishes him off. The system says that this is the end of the second round, and the score is 2-0 for the protagonist. Because of that, he is the final winner. After that, Woo Hyun continued his matches relentlessly and went on until he won 30 times in a row. Nayeon says that Haxical is already in gold rank. Sungchul says that he never thought he could win 30 times in a row on his very first live stream. The people in the chat say that they were left breathless watching that, because he simply cut down all his opponents. One of the viewers even said that his mother was watching, and said that if he ate a lot of vegetables, he would become that strong. People start asking them to share the build that Monster was using. Nayeon reads the comment asking them to share the build and thinks that most people would not like doing that, but she should at least ask what the protagonist thinks. She sends a message asking if it is okay to show his build to people, but if he does not like doing that, he can just refuse and it will also be fine. He says that she can show it and that there is no problem. Nayeon is happy with that and announces to everyone that Haxical agreed to show his build and that she will post it in the community after the live stream. The chat asks if that is really true because apparently God is good, the devil is worthless, and all prayers have been answered. However, some people find it a little strange, since this is a sensitive part for high-level players, and he will show it without getting anything in return. Another person comments that this only shows how confident he is in his own abilities. Sungchul and Nayeon thank everyone for the live stream and for everyone who followed it from beginning to end, saying that they hope to see everyone in the next live stream. As soon as they end the live stream, Sungchul shouts that it was simply incredible, something unprecedented that may never happen again. Nayeon agrees with everything because they had the appearance of a fully adaptive artificial intelligence, a sequence of 30 victories, and he is even going to show his build. The community is going to go crazy. Nayeon says that at this rate, he will probably be able to break the world record. She questions what the longest winning streak anyone has ever achieved is. Sungchul says that currently the longest winning streak in Clash mode is 76, and the person who holds it is Gladiator. He achieved that streak while playing on his Smurf account. Nayeon remains confident, saying that she really hopes Woohyun can break that record because they are talking about Haxical, so she is sure he will be able to do it. Sungchul says that he agrees, and emphasizes that Gladiator is famous for his competitiveness, so he must already be keeping an eye on the protagonist by now. The game's community was going crazy, saying that the Easter egg from the best developers in the world had been revealed in that livestream. The reaction of foreign developers was absolutely hilarious, not to mention that the most popular search on the search site was recording the match in real time, and a sniper had been completely humiliated. Another person says that in the first round, the sniper was completely humiliated, but in the second round, he was acting completely differently, as if someone else were playing for him. Because of that, he decided to report the account and received the report result, saying that the reported player was penalized because he was using an unauthorized program and was permanently banned according to the rules. The man who was researching all of that sees a comment saying, "I don't think even Gladiator has a chance against him." The man who was researching was Gladiator himself, and he becomes a little bothered, saying that this guy is very funny. A few days later, the second live stream was starting. Woo Hyun, while walking through the forest, thinks that anonymous viewer 62 did not appear in the last livestream, which makes him wonder if it is possible that he needs to do something. Yoojin appears and calls out to him. As soon as the chat sees her, they say that she is the fully adaptive artificial intelligence, and because of that, she is a blessing, a gift from the gods. She tells the protagonist that this is his first practical mission and asks if he is a little nervous, but he says that he is doing very well. As soon as he entered the game, he received a new mission. His first practical mission was received, and he needs to change into his battle clothes and go to the meeting location. He thinks that the first practical mission of a recruit is good because it lets him skip the training part since this is just a game. Woo Hyun asks what the mission is about. Yoojin explains that the mission is to eliminate invading entities and close the rift because they received a report of a possible rift break there. That is another place that the corporate league discarded, but they do not talk much about it with them since sometimes they give a little help. However, the moment they realize they will not gain much from something, they simply discard it. The protagonist thinks that the corporations there are not very different from the ones in the other world. Anyway, those are insect-type invading entities. With their small size, an invasive number of insect-type creatures, and a relatively low danger level, they are between F and E. They are weak, but they are still irritating because of their numbers. Sergeant Yihun introduces himself and asks if she is the awakened one from the agency. Yoojin says yes and thanks the sergeant for his hard work showing her identification. As soon as they enter the place, she emphasizes that this is insane because it is the first time she has seen a portal appear inside an abandoned factory. Woo Hyun was wondering why that place seemed so familiar to him, but the truth is that he had already seen that place in the other world. He remembers it being medium-sized, not small, which makes him question whether there was some kind of mistake. Yoojin asks if he is ready for them to enter, but before they enter, someone appears, asking what brings Miss Yoojin to a low-scale subjugation. His name is Choi Hyungchul, an awakened affiliated with Gyumshin Electronics. Yoojin asks why he is there. Hyungchul says that he is just as surprised as she is, because he did not expect his mission area to coincide with hers. Yoojin asks if he really has a mission there, after they discarded and gave up on that place, and questions if they are plotting something. Hyungchul says that this is very mean and asks who the new guy with her is. Youngchul approaches the protagonist, telling him not to waste time with that agency and to join his great corporation. Yujin becomes irritated by that situation and asks him not to cross the line. Youngchul continues acting mockingly and tells her to relax a little, because he will let her deal with that reverse world. He says goodbye to the two of them, saying that he is leaving. The protagonist asks who that guy is, and she says that he was the first recruit she had to work with. Ever since he left the agency after being recruited by the corporate league, he has been spreading rumors about the agency. Yujin asks if Woo Hyun wants a tasty and sweet candy. Sungchul is surprised and asks if this is the first time their relationship has been shown in so much detail. Nayeon, also surprised, says that she has never seen anything like this, because originally it was only said that something bad happened between them. Sungchul emphasizes that maybe they can see a deeper story thanks to the fully adaptive artificial intelligence. The viewers also become excited, saying that they hope there is a hidden story and that if they are talking about the company Planet Earth, then there is definitely something hidden behind all of this. Yujin says that it is time to stop the nonsense and enter that portal already. Outside, Youngchul and his group were just waiting, saying that apparently they have just entered and now it is time to work. 20 minutes later, inside the reverse world, the protagonist was a little dirty and looks at Yujin, who was all cut up on the ground, along with the candies she had offered before. A little earlier, they had just entered the portal, and she explains that this is how they go to the reverse world. They just need to enter through the rift. The protagonist says that he understands and thinks that it is exactly like in the other world. Suddenly, everything begins to shake, and he thinks that it might be a phenomenon. Yujin begins being pulled by a portal and tells the protagonist to be very careful. They are taken to another place, and Woo Hyun sees that it is a forest and that he was separated from Yujin. The passage often collapses because of external force, but first he needs to deal with a few things in his way. After that, he will look for her somewhere else. She was doing the same, using echoing thunder to eliminate all the monsters around her. However, she was already getting exhausted because the monsters would not stop appearing. Besides that, the size of that forest looked more like a medium-scale reverse world than a low-scale one. Something was definitely wrong, but she hoped the protagonist was okay. At that moment, Youngchul suddenly appears and attacks her from behind. She manages to dodge the fatal attack, but even so, she is hit. Yujin asks why he is doing that, and he emphasizes that it can be called a secret mission. He asks her not to hold a grudge because he is only following orders. His accomplices also begin approaching, and she says that this is just nonsense. She thinks that the wound she just suffered is very deep and that she needs to get out of there immediately. She tries to attack using Guardian Stone to buy time. She manages to escape, but Youngchul orders everyone to go after her immediately. While running, she tries to launch a surprise attack. Because of that, she gains a little more advantage. Youngchul shouts for them to block the attacks and asks what they are doing. She notices a hole right beside her and hides inside it. Youngchul and his group shout that they lost her but continue searching. She comes out of the hole panting and in pain, thinking that if it had not been for that, she would be in serious trouble. However, she questions what this secret mission means, because they are clearly plotting something. Meanwhile, the protagonist had already eliminated all the monsters around him without difficulty. Woo Hyun looks at the footprints on the ground and thinks that he definitely felt Yujin's presence there, so something must have happened. He hears a scream and realizes that it is her voice, so he shoots like lightning toward the sound. As soon as he gets close, he sees a centipede trying to attack her. The chat says that she is in danger, but they do not know why she is losing to an insect. But what left everyone even more intrigued was how the protagonist knew she was there. Seeing that she was in danger, he attacks without thinking twice and finishes the monster with a single blow. He goes back and catches her in his arms before she falls to the ground. Woo Hyun places her against a tree and asks if she is okay. However, he realizes that her wound is very deep and that there is no way someone as strong as her would lose to a simple insect. Her wound was caused by some ability. Given the situation, the person who must have done this is... He asks if Youngchul did that to her. Yujin says yes and emphasizes that apparently he entered right after the phenomenon. Nayeon asks if there is not something wrong because normally Youngchul would wait to set up an ambush. The chat agrees, saying that he ambushed them while they were talking about the corporation, and that happened way too early, which means that something different is happening. Nayeon asks Sungchul if this is because of the adaptive artificial intelligence. He explains that this is the only conclusion he has managed to reach, a possible hidden story, and this is getting more and more interesting, so they just need to watch for now. Yujin, embarrassed and breathing heavily, explains that she managed to shake them off, but they can appear at any moment. Besides that, if she uses her abilities, she will probably reveal their location. She asks the protagonist to leave that place so he can stay safe. Woo Hyun says that before anything else, he needs to give her first aid, so she just needs to stay hidden, because he will take care of that useless bunch himself. Yujin tells him not to do it and emphasizes that Youngchul is an experienced awakened one, and the protagonist cannot defeat him alone. But Woo Hyun asks her not to worry because he will be fine since he has a plan. Meanwhile, near a stream, Youngchul, together with his group, asks where that girl hid. He emphasizes that she is injured and could not have gone very far and tells them to search around that creek while he goes down and takes another direction. However, he senses a presence right behind him and tries to attack. Hyungchul is surprised, saying that he is the recruit Yujin is taking care of. The protagonist explains that the passage suddenly collapsed, that he was separated from her, and asks if he knows what happened. The chat says that his acting is perfect and even looks like that of his friends. Hyungchul touches the protagonist's shoulder, saying that apparently he does not know anything and that he will explain, but he tries to attack him, saying that they will meet again if he sleeps for a little while. But the protagonist was already ready for that and hits Hyungchul with an attack to the chest. Hyungchul begins trembling, cursing the protagonist. The chat says that idiot really fell for it. His companions approach and ask what happened, and the protagonist takes advantage of that to try to move away. One of them says that he will provide first aid and the other needs to go after that guy immediately. While the companion was chasing the protagonist, Woo Hyun observed every movement of his prey. The man says that the protagonist probably could not have gone very far, but Woo Hyun appears behind him and does what he does best. The last man, who was trying to save his boss, asked him to pull himself together because he had stopped the bleeding, so he only needed treatment after they got out of there. But Woo Hyun was already back to continue playing with his prey. He attacks, the man notices it and dodges, but the attack hits Hyungchul again. The last man, in despair, tells the protagonist to show himself, and he really does appear. The man takes off his helmet and asks where the other guy who went after the protagonist is. Woo Hyun simply grabs the sword, and the last man sees that the sword in Woo Hyun's hands belongs to his companion. He becomes completely furious and uses his abilities, saying that he will put an end to this immediately, attacking with the Stone Blade's ability. But the protagonist simply dodges all of them and keeps advancing. The man says that it is not over yet and tries to use landslide to stop his advance. Woo Hyun changes his trajectory, heads toward a tree, and breaks it with a kick, making it fall onto another tree to support himself and dodge the attack. The helmeted soldier says that the protagonist is a damned monster and uses Earthhorn. Woo Hyun manages to dodge the first attacks but ends up getting injured, and that makes him even angrier. He switches from defense to offense. The man is frightened, telling him to stay away, but it is too late. Never touch a monster's woman, otherwise that will be your last action. The three were eliminated just as expected. The viewers say that it truly was unbelievable, making them lose their breath. Nayeon no longer knows what to say and emphasizes that the protagonist just defeated 3 hounds with only 1 core ability. Sungchul was also so impressed that he almost had an orgasm. Woo Hyun looks at the wound on his arm and thinks that he defeated 2 of them in an ambush and was still injured, which means that this was to be expected because he is still very weak compared to his self from the other world. Because of that, it is time to take a look. He takes Hyungchul's phone and sees that the message said Yujin and the rookie would be dispatched to the reverse world. He needed to try to capture them alive, but if things got out of control, he could eliminate them. Woo Hyun thinks that he could not find much else on the body. That message is the only information he has, and because of that, he would rather leave the investigation to the agency. He also obtained the sharpened return dagger. The first effect is an increase in the blade's cutting power. The second effect is that when thrown, it returns to the hand that threw it whenever the user wants. And this effect only applies in PvE game mode. He also obtained the winner's bracelet, which has the first effect of increasing the user's ability power, and the second effect is reducing the ability cooldown, also only taking effect in PvE mode. The Hermit's necklace has the effect of shadow storage, and he can place items in storage whenever he wants, also only usable in PvE mode. He thinks that he can check the effects of items instantly, and that is very good. After all, in that world, he had to discover the effects through trial and error, but now that he has resolved what he needed to, he needs to hurry, since he has to clear that reverse world before Yujin's wounds get even worse. Speaking of her, she was in front of an incredibly large and terrifying monster. That is the boss entity, the Emperor Scorpion. She says that she has terrible luck because she encountered that monster right now while injured. However, maybe she could even consider it luck because that monster could have appeared in front of the recruit instead of her. The Emperor Scorpion prepares to attack her, and she also advances, thinking that she needs to deal with it. But before she can do anything, the monster falls dead in front of her. The protagonist, who was on top of the monster, asks if she is okay. Yujin is shocked to see the recruit alive, well, and killing the boss. The chat also says that she is incredibly strong because she was fighting a boss entity in those conditions. However, what was even more impressive is that the protagonist eliminated 3 hounds, saved her, managed to eliminate normal and elite entities, and returned in time to eliminate the boss. The sky begins to crack and the protagonist thinks that the reverse world is closing. Yujin asks if he really managed to defeat the hounds alone. Woo Hyun simply ignores her question and says that they need to get out of there, asking her to climb onto his back. Nayeon asks if the reverse world is closing before they can leave because they cleared the world after the passage failed. Sungchul says yes, and because of that, they need to escape before they end up being dragged into the total collapse. Woo Hyun was carrying Yujin out while she apologized for putting him in a situation like that. but Woo Hyun simply asks her to stay strong and hold on to him. He starts running toward the portal, and as soon as he crosses it, the system says that the invasion has been completed and that he has managed to increase his level, gaining one more skill point. A short time later at the agency headquarters, Kim Chul asks if it is true that Yujin was injured because she was ambushed by another awakened one. Woo Hyun says yes, and Kim Chul says that the corporations have crossed every line, questioning what happened to them. Woo Hyun says that he killed them all. Kim Chul is surprised and asks if he really did that alone. Woo Hyun simply stays silent, and Kim Chul remembers that when he found the protagonist, he had eliminated all the guards by himself. Kim Chul asks if he managed to find any evidence. Woo Hyun places the phone on the table, saying that it belongs to one of them. There are signs that he was instructed through messages, but the protagonist says that he could not check the rest because it is locked with a security code. Kim Chul says that this is great and emphasizes that the investigation will go more smoothly thanks to this. He asks the protagonist to leave the rest to them and rest for a bit. Woo Hyun stands up and says that he is leaving, but Kim Chul notices something and asks him to wait a little. Kim Chul says that he is only saying this because he is actually a little worried, but there will be another chance later. Woo Hyun just stares at him without saying anything, with a fixed and serious gaze. Kim Chul asks him to calm down until then and asks if the protagonist understands what he is saying. Woo Hyun simply lowers his gaze and says yes. The system says that the primary practical mission has been completed, and his level has increased again. He gained one more skill point and needs to choose his second core ability. Nayeon takes a deep breath, saying that Woo Hyun finally managed to complete his first mission. Sung Chul emphasizes that it was far more incredible than he expected. Nayeon says that she is sure the viewers are also satisfied, judging by their reactions. But suddenly she notices something and becomes surprised. Anonymous viewer 62 donated 3 million and says that the protagonist passed the first test and here is the special mission. Nayeon tells the protagonist that anonymous viewer 62 sent a donation of 3 million and a message. Woo Hyun is surprised, thinking that it finally happened. Nayeon sends the protagonist a photo of the message and he starts wondering what a special mission is. But suddenly, he remembers that the same guy said something similar last time. The first few times he appeared, he had greeted the protagonist, saying it was good to see him again, asking how it felt to return to his true world because he had a special mission for the protagonist, and from then on, he would start watching the streams. Woo Hyun thinks that means he will tell him as soon as the stream ends. He thanks Nayeon, saying they need to continue the stream soon. Sung Chul asks if something happened, but she says no and apologizes. Nayeon finds everything a little strange, wondering if he cannot see that donation window. However, that actually makes some sense since it is a private donation. She thinks she should focus on the stream for now until she knows what is really going on. She smiles and shouts, saying that apparently everyone is excited like last time, and says it is time to move on to PvP mode. She points out that the protagonist became quite famous for winning all those matches in a row. Sung Chul agrees and asks what PvP mode they will play this time. Nayeon says that the current mode is War, a 5-on-5 team mode, and the first team to achieve 2 consecutive victories wins the match. The viewers get a little upset, saying that this is really boring and that they were expecting combat mode, questioning whether they were afraid of losing the winning streak. Nayeon thinks she already expected this kind of reaction, but the viewers will change their minds once they see what she has planned. She smiles at the camera and says it is time to begin. A little while later, the system says that the War PvP mode has been found. The players enter and get excited. Sung Chul explains that the first game is Convoy. The attacking team needs to take the cargo to the destination, and the defending team needs to stop them. Nayeon points out that this is the protagonist's first team game, so she cannot imagine how he will do. The game announces that the first round will begin now. The truck starts moving, 2 people go on top, 2 in front, and the protagonist goes behind, but he stops walking, and Sung Chul finds that a little strange. Woo Hyun had already activated the Be Perfect skill. Nayeon asks if it is possible that Woo Hyun is thinking of playing as a lurker. Sung Chul says that normally people prefer to stay close to the cargo. However, what he is doing is not a bad choice. If he can hold his own, that will work too. However, it is not very easy to fight 5 people alone. Even so, the protagonist simply changes direction and starts advancing by himself. The viewers point out that if they are talking about Haxical, it is very possible that he really is planning to face the 5 opponents alone. Sung Chul says that the speed at which the protagonist is moving is truly incredible and that, at that pace, he will meet the defending team in a matter of seconds. Suddenly, Woo Hyun jumps into the middle of the 5 and starts attacking them, easily eliminating one. The others shout that the lurker has appeared, but another one is also eliminated in a matter of seconds. The other 3 who were still standing get irritated, asking what their team is doing. One of the men offers to hold the protagonist there, while the other 2 need to go after the cargo. But the strategy does not work very well. The other elimination messages continue appearing, and the protagonist team is a little confused, wondering why they keep receiving those elimination messages. Suddenly, the system changes and says that the attacking team won, and the end of the first round has already arrived. One of the players on the protagonist team cannot believe it is already over and that he did absolutely nothing. Because of these reactions, the viewers are impressed, and a debate begins among them. Some viewers say they would be annoyed if they also could not do anything, while others point out that the players on the protagonist team should be grateful for being carried. Nayeon says she already expected Haxicle to carry his team, but that was far too surprising since the match ended very quickly. Sungchul says he also felt that the protagonist was faster than usual, which makes him wonder if it is possible that he is in a hurry. Nayeon laughs, saying that no one knows what goes on inside his head, but they should just keep watching, and so they continued with the other 3 modes. The second mode was Deathmatch, and the protagonist continued eliminating everyone incredibly fast. After that came King of the Hill, and everyone already knew how that would end. The opposing team tried to protect their base while shouting, asking what was wrong with that guy and why no one could stop him. The protagonist kept dodging every attack with ease, eliminating every opponent he found in front of him. And finally, the last mode was Capture the Flag, which changed nothing. He advanced alone, eliminated the entire opposing team in a matter of seconds, got a pentakill in every game mode, and finished them off quickly. Anonymous Viewer 62 donated another 3 million, saying that the protagonist had done a good job as always, and that this was the special mission. He asked Woo Hyun to open a new reverse planet system by progressing through the game. Nayeon was already almost going crazy from so much money because she had earned another 3 million again. She tells the protagonist that once again they received a donation and a message from Anonymous Viewer 62. She asked if he would like to hold some event for the viewers. Besides that, they could also throw a party, buy equipment, and everything else. But Woo Hyun only asked her to send him the photo of the message she received. As soon as he looks, he sees the message telling him to open a new system by progressing through the game. And apparently he just needs to keep playing, regardless of whether it is PvP or PvE. He's not very happy about that, but he takes a deep breath and thinks that for now, he will just keep doing what the anonymous viewer asks. A few days later, on the day of the third stream, the protagonist went to the training facility of the Interdimensional Management Agency. He receives a message from Yujin saying that she will not be able to teach him for a while because of her injury, but she found someone to replace her. She would like to introduce them to each other, and says that if he can come to the training facility, that would be great. Nayeon asks who this substitute will be. Sungchul says that maybe it could be someone famous, considering it is Haxicle. The viewers ask if it is possible that it might be Kimchul, but others say no because he is very busy. A little while later, Yujin raises her hand saying that the protagonist finally arrived and calls him over. He asks how she is. Yujin says she's doing great thanks to him, but she still cannot teach him. She looks to the side and says that the substitute has arrived. A woman introduces herself saying that her name is Kim Hana. The audience goes wild when they see that first it was Yujin and now Hana, and this makes them extremely envious. The protagonist says it is a pleasure to meet her and introduces himself by saying his name. He thinks that when it comes to skill, she is second only to Kimchul. She is basically the second strongest person in the Interdimensional Management Agency. Things became quite dangerous when they met as enemies in the other world. Yujin says that now that the two of them have already been introduced, she needs to leave because she came there without anyone knowing. Hana gets a little bothered because she had said she had permission to be there. Yujin runs away and tells Hana to trust her to train the protagonist. Hana shouts for her to wait, but Yujin simply ignores her and keeps running, leaving the two of them alone. Hana gets a little embarrassed and starts making conversation with the protagonist, saying that she heard he uses a sword and asks if it is long or short. The protagonist says both. She is surprised, thinks that she would like to see his skill level, and asks if he would be willing to duel her. Sungchul and Nayeon are surprised by this. Sungchul says that he is a little confused by the way things are progressing. Nayeon asks if dueling is not normal among swordsmen. Sungchul says yes, however, not all players use swords, and this only happened because Haxicle is the protagonist. Nayeon cannot believe what she just heard. The chat is also surprised because what Sungchul just said makes sense, since most players are skill users, and that adaptive artificial intelligence is truly insane. Nayeon points out that she thought the artificial intelligence would have limits, even though it was fully adaptive. But this is completely different compared to the stories of other players in that game. There is a possibility of progressing with a completely different story depending on the player's actions, just like in real life. Hana says that they will use only swords in that duel, but the protagonist, who already had his skill active, says that may not be possible because his skill is body enhancement and is active all the time, including right now. Hana says that if that is the case, then she will try to control her own abilities herself, and with a smile on her face says it is time to begin. She quickly advances to attack the protagonist, but Woo Hyun manages to dodge the attack and counterattacks, making their two swords collide. The two continue advancing against each other, causing huge explosions every time their swords touch. Sungchul points out that Hana is not someone who can be underestimated because she is very strong. Nayeon says that the build she is using is the Wind God's build. Sungchul explains that technically, yes, the Wind God build was inspired by Hana. Even though Haxical is also incredible, he is not falling behind Hana in speed. She continues attacking several times with impressive speed, but Woo Hyun manages to defend against every attack. The viewers go wild, asking if that was not supposed to be just a side mission, and seeing that makes them really want to learn how to use swords. Woo Hyun analyzes Hana's movements and thinks that she is not only fast but also very precise, since she aims exactly at his openings. Hana, who is also analyzing the protagonist, laughs and says that maybe she can take this a little more seriously, releasing her skill and increasing her speed even more. Her attack manages to pass through the protagonist's defense and causes a huge explosion of energy, but as soon as the energy dissipates, she looks ahead and says that this was already expected, because she knew the protagonist would be able to dodge that attack. The chat says that apparently that girl really is built different, since not even Haxical managed to beat her. However, he only has 2 core skills, so they cannot fight on equal terms. And maybe if he gets 1 more core skill, he will be able to defeat her. Hana says that Woo Hyun is even more incredible than she had thought. The protagonist thanks her, but thinks that if it were a real battle, his chances of victory would be around 20%. And right now, he is much weaker compared to himself in the other world. Hana asks who taught him swordsmanship, and the protagonist says he learned on his own, leaving her surprised. Hana asks him to follow her because she has something to show him. The system says that the dual mission against her has been completed, and he managed to level up. Hana takes Woo Hyun somewhere else and says that this is the arsenal of the Interdimensional Management Agency. The man inside says that apparently the protagonist needs a slightly more suitable weapon. He is Kim Hyunwoo, the leader of the support and assistance team of the Interdimensional Management Agency. Hana agrees with Hyunwoo, saying that is exactly right, and that even though the protagonist has his own weapons, there is no need to keep using weapons without abilities. Woo Hyun thinks that is true and that it actually makes sense. Hyunwoo tells him to feel free to choose whatever he wants, because he needs to step out for a bit to take care of some things. Hana tells him to take as much time as he wants and choose what he truly thinks is best. Woo Hyun starts looking through a few things and thinks that nothing is really useful to him, but he finally finds something that catches his attention. A spear called the Vampiric Spear Dragos. It has the effect of increasing the cutting power of the spear's blade, as well as absorbing blood, healing the wielder, and gaining blood control. These effects only work in PvE mode. He's about to choose that spear, but he notices something behind him. A sword called Soul Devourer. The Sword of Eternal Death, Soul Devourer, has a total of 5 effects. The first effect is that it cannot be destroyed, while the second is that its cutting power increases depending on the number of souls devoured. Third, it heals the wielder based on the amount of damage Soul Devourer currently has. The fourth and fifth effects are highly sealed for now. The protagonist gets a little confused, saying that this weapon should be in the black market, and questions why it is there. It probably belonged to the agency, and somehow someone managed to steal it, causing it to end up in the black market. He really did not think he would find his favorite weapon in that place. Hana asks if he's really going to choose that sword, and the protagonist says yes because that is his weapon. Hana finds the choice of a longsword quite interesting and says she will request the ownership transfer immediately. But while Woo Hyun was analyzing the weapon, Nayeon notices something strange and asks what is going on, because normally the person gets 2 weapon options. The chat also cannot believe it, asking if that makes any sense because he got 5 options right at the beginning, and normally people receive things randomly, but the protagonist only got the best ones. Jenga Chocolate donated 1,000, saying that the sword will probably last until the end of the game if he unlocks all the options. Sungchul points out that this is not the first time the protagonist has obtained a weapon inappropriate for that part of the game. The Hermit's Necklace, which he obtained in the last stream, only appears in the middle of the game. The viewers say that now that they have stopped to think about it, that actually makes sense, because no one had cared about it due to the hidden story that was being shown. The protagonist had encountered the hunting dogs in his first mission, so no one cared about that. Sungchul points out that most of them probably already know this, but Reverse Planet gives rewards strictly based on risk. The greater the challenge, the greater the reward. Nayeon says that the protagonist was able to obtain the necklace because he defeated the hunting dogs in the first mission. Sungchul says she is correct. Haxical did all of that flawlessly, from escaping the laboratory to the duel with Hana. Nayeon asks if Soul Devourer is the reward he received for doing all of that because if that is really true, it makes perfect sense. Sungchul points out that this is just a theory, but for now, they just need to watch and see how things will continue to evolve. Hana says that the sword has already been transferred, and the protagonist stores it away, thanking her for everything she did. Hana says that now he has a new weapon, so they can go to the inverted world. The protagonist agrees, and they go to the top of the mountain to enter a rift. Hana points out that she never imagined there would be a rift right at the top of that mountain, and that the entire climb was already enough to warm her up for the fight. He remembers that one of the guards had said they only needed to climb a little to find the rift, but the truth is that they went all the way to the top. Hana explains that this is the place where beast-type invading entities in the form of wolves appear. The wolves are also small in size, and the beast-type entity and danger level are also low, ranging between rank F and rank E. She points out that the wolves have a strong territorial instinct, so they will surround that place very quickly. Woo-hyun thinks that beast-type invaders are a little more complicated to deal with than insect-type ones, but anything below rank B is basically nothing to him. Woo-hyun says that the wolves' territorial instinct will save them the trouble of having to hunt them down. Hana points out that she will interfere if things get too dangerous, but for now, she will only watch. Woo-hyun takes Soul Devourer from the shadow storage and says he understands. The beasts quickly start approaching, and the protagonist activates his skill. The wolves prepare to attack, and Woo-hyun thinks that the first strike needs to be with all his strength. With just one swing of his sword, he hits all the wolves, defeating them easily. The system announces that Soul Devourer's cutting power has increased. The viewers also liked it, and Nayeon points out that the protagonist made the giant sword look like a feather, with impressive movement dexterity. Cha_Sungchul1 donated 50,000, saying that mechanic is truly incredible. On the other hand, the protagonist, who is holding Soul Devourer, thinks that the feeling of it in his hand is different from other weapons. Hana was also impressed, asking if that was the Heavenly Moon Slash. As soon as the protagonist had defeated the first wolves, he notices something approaching. Sungchul is also surprised. Nayeon points out that elite entities are already appearing, and the pace is quite fast for the development of this situation. The elite beasts try to attack the protagonist, but he continues moving his swords incredibly well, eliminating every threat around him. Sungchul asks where the protagonist learned those martial arts. Besides that, his first strike reminded him of Hana's Heavenly Moon Slash. Nayeon says that, as far as she knows, the protagonist had never received any formal training before, but maybe it is just solo training again. One of the viewers makes a donation, asking if she really said solo training because he does not believe in that kind of thing. Woo-hyun continues moving with ease and eliminates all the elite monsters that try to attack him. Hana is impressed as she watches him, thinking that this is not just excellent. The system warns again that his cutting power is excellent. Suddenly, he feels the presence of something a little frightening and enters a defensive stance, because something is approaching. Then, a huge wolf appears. Sungchul shouts that a major boss entity has appeared, famous as a newbie slayer because of its speed and power. The boss attacks the protagonist. Nayeon says that Woo-hyun managed to block the attack, but he's being pushed back by the boss's monstrous strength. However, using only brute force, the protagonist manages to rip off one of the boss wolf's horns. He prepares to attack, thinking that this thing seems much stronger than just an elite entity. However, it is still nothing compared to his true strength, and with a single strike, he cuts the monster in half. The sword devours all the eliminated souls, and as expected, the power of the Soul Devourer is increasing. Hana approaches, saying that this was expected from the most anticipated trainee agent. She points out that honestly she was wondering whether she should intervene, because the boss entity was much stronger than the evaluated grade. Nayeon says that this was exactly her point as well, since they had said the difficulty of that rift was between F and, at most, E. However, the strength shown by the boss was comparable to a B-rank target. Sungchul says that the measurement criteria are certainly strange, and maybe it is not just the mission content, but also the difficulty that was affected by the protagonist's actions. The viewers are impressed, asking if this difficulty is really increasing to hell-level difficulty, because that mission truly seemed extraordinarily difficult. Sungchul asks anyway why the alternate world is not closed even after they eliminated the boss entity. Woo-hyun asks Hana if this is what he is thinking, and she says yes, because they are certainly experiencing an anomaly. She asks him to follow her because she is going to discover the cause of all this. A little while later, while walking, she manages to find an egg. Suddenly, that egg begins to hatch, and she shouts for the protagonist to be careful because she does not know what might happen. Then, a small puppy appears from inside the egg. The puppy starts running around them, and the viewers ask if they are really seeing this correctly because they had never seen anything like it before. Hana points out that this is definitely an anomaly, because a creature from another world that is not hostile toward humans is basically impossible. The little puppy sniffs the protagonist's boot and gets happy, wagging its tail completely. Woo-hyun asks if he should eliminate that creature. Hana explains that normally creatures from another world must be eliminated immediately. However, that dog is very cute. Besides that, it is a special case, so it would be good to take it to the research laboratory for some tests. Woo-hyun carefully picks up the puppy, saying that he understands. As soon as he takes the puppy into his hands, the inverted world begins to collapse, and they need to hurry and get out of there. A little while later, inside headquarters, the examiner says this is the first time he has seen a case like that. But the research shows that the creature is not a life form from another world. Hana is confused because it was found inside an egg, inside a rift in the inverted world. The examiner says that maybe it could be a creature summoned by an ability. Hana remains confused, saying that neither of them has any ability related to summoned creatures. The researcher says that it is probably not because of the two of them, but because of the inverted world itself, so he needs to research it a little more. She asks if the agency will protect that dog from then on. The researcher says that about that, apparently, the imprint with its owner has already been completed. Besides that, by regulation, they cannot protect a creature that has already been imprinted. Hana was still lost in that whole situation. The system appears to the protagonist, saying that the Thunderwolf has already been registered as his subordinate. Suddenly, a red system screen appears with an emergency maintenance notice. Server maintenance for an update is scheduled to begin in 5 minutes. Users need to go to a safe place and rest. Nayeon is also surprised by this and asks what is happening inside the game because a sudden update that did not exist before has happened, and now emergency maintenance has been triggered. Sungchul comments that this is too much of a coincidence to be a real coincidence. Nayeon laughs, saying that maybe the protagonist was so good that he broke something, and now they are trying to fix it urgently. The viewers say they are getting more and more excited by those coincidences. The timing for this is truly incredible, especially in a fully adaptive system. Before ending the broadcast, Sungchul says that they will observe this situation later, but for now, they will have to end the broadcast for today. Nayeon also says goodbye, saying that she would like to see everyone next time. In the real world, the people at the American headquarters were watching the broadcast. One of them says that this is the broadcast in question. The leader of the game development team nods, asking if that is not the same boy who managed to discover the fully adaptive system that even they did not know about. The man says that is exactly right, because they had been keeping an eye on the protagonist for a while. She says that now there has been a system update that even the development team did not know about. The irritated man slams the controller on the table, telling the leader that she probably already knows this, but the only one who could do something like that is Lee Sak, the former leader of the Reverse Planet development team. He is a genius developer, but he is currently missing. The current team leader thinks that boy is insane, and apparently, he hit himself alone. But even so, it is not enough to shut down the server and update it arbitrarily. She asks what is happening with Deus, and one of her teammates says that they have continuously tried to wake her, but there has been no response. Deus is an artificial intelligence created by Lee Sak to help him develop his game. However, she stopped functioning after his disappearance. The team leader asks them to first find out if there is more update data that they do not know about because they cannot allow a situation like that to happen again. However, one of the members asks if they will really be able to find it if Sak truly wanted to hide it. The leader says that no matter what happens, they need to find it somehow. Besides that, they need to put Woo Hyun on the special management list and monitor his live broadcast so they can take immediate action if something happens. However, she was still extremely irritated and worried about the former team leader. Meanwhile, inside the game's code, something was happening. Anonymous viewer 62 made a donation of 5 million and says that the protagonist did an excellent job, and there is his reward for completing the special mission. And for his next mission, the protagonist will need reliable companions. Back in the real world, the protagonist had received another message saying that for his next mission, he would need a trustworthy companion. He thinks that it is from Anonymous Viewer 62 and wonders what he is plotting. Besides that, lately he has only been receiving special missions linked to the system. He remembers that he needs to progress through the game and unlock the new Reverse Planet system. So one of the candidates for the Anonymous Viewer has to be one of the developers or someone connected to them. Nayeon talks about Anonymous Viewer 62 and asks if the protagonist thinks he might be an employee of the game company, since it is very suspicious that they went into maintenance right when the protagonist found a pet. Woo Hyun says that it is probably just a coincidence, because why would a game company watch the stream of some random player like him? But he wants to know what the big news she mentioned in her message is. Nayeon says that he received a recruitment offer for the SSR Cup. The SSR Cup is the biggest PvP tournament in Reverse Planet. Usually they invite streamers, famous influencers, or professional players. Woo Hyun asks why they would want him there as a coach. Nayeon says the answer to that is obvious. Because the protagonist is the center of attention right now, and there is something called an official support coach within that cup. They must have thought it would be better to invite someone of the protagonist's caliber as a coach instead of a player. She asks why he cannot participate and show his skills as a coach. Woo Hyun becomes a little thoughtful and asks if that means he would have to take on a disciple. She says yes, and if he wants to accept, she will prepare everything for him, because they can even hold a selection process for the protagonist to choose whoever he thinks is best. He remembers the message he received from the anonymous viewer, saying that for his next mission, he should have a trustworthy companion, so he decides to accept. Nayeon gets so excited that she stands up and starts shouting, asking if he is serious, because that is a good decision since it will also help with the streams. She starts eating, drinking, and working at the same time, saying that she will notify them before the protagonist changes his mind. A few days later on the professor's stream, Sungchul and Nayeon start the broadcast by greeting everyone. She points out that today they have an important announcement to make before starting the stream. She says that the protagonist will participate in the SSR Cup as a coach. The chat asks why he is going as a coach and not as a player. Others say it is to maintain balance because if the protagonist participated, it would basically be impossible to stop him. Sungchul asks if being good at the game is completely different from knowing how to train a player, because he is curious to see how the protagonist will handle it. Nayeon says that makes sense, but the protagonist's current ranking is relatively low, so he needs to focus on ranking up that day. Sungchul points out that this is an excellent idea because if he wants to have credibility as a coach, having a high rank is mandatory. The viewers ask if the protagonist is currently gold rank in all 3 modes. Sungchul says that, to be more specific, currently in Confrontation and War, the protagonist is gold, but in Survival, he is unranked. Nayeon explains that previously, she and the protagonist had played duo in Survival mode and managed to win 10 games in a row, so he can already start playing ranked directly. The viewers send a mission to the protagonist. He needs to win with 40 eliminations or more without using any weapon. If he succeeds, he will earn 3 million. The other viewers say that this guy is going to swim in money and probably will not let this opportunity pass, which means the first match will be interesting. Nayeon sends a message saying that they just received a 1,000,000 level mission. If he gets 40 eliminations in Survival without a weapon, they will be able to complete the mission. She asks if he can do it and if he accepts the mission. The viewers point out that this was exactly what they were waiting for and that maybe, finally, he will fail a mission for the first time. But Woo Hyun accepts the mission without hesitation, driving Sungchul and Nayeon crazy. He prepares to enter PvP mode, and Nayeon says that now they need to watch and see whether it is really possible for him to get 40 eliminations without using a weapon. As soon as he enters the military base, he activates his Be Perfect skill and notices that there are already 9 players there. So he needs to be fast if he wants to get 40 eliminations. He gets ready and dashes forward with incredible speed to begin the hunt. Woo Hyun starts eliminating every player, leaving everyone impressed because he is moving far too fast and they can barely follow his movements on the stream. The system continues counting the eliminations and, a little while later, he had already managed to eliminate 18 people. He thinks that he has already cleared everyone nearby and that now it is time to go to the center of the map. A little while later, only 2 survivors were left on the map. The other survivor was sitting down, waiting for the protagonist to appear so he could attack him, but the opponent manages to dodge. The chat says that this is impressive and asks if that guy is using some kind of cheat, because the speed at which he reacted was incredible. The man goes on alert and prepares for combat. Sungchul notices the other player's stance and points out that he must be a player who uses a body enhancement build just like the protagonist. Nayeon says that this is the first time in history and that that player's elimination record is quite extraordinary because he has a high total number of eliminations so far. The viewers say that 15 eliminations really is a lot because even though the protagonist makes it look very easy, people who are considered pro players usually get around 10 eliminations per game. Woo Hyun currently has 39 eliminations, and if he can defeat his last opponent, he will win the competition and complete the first challenge. The challenger tries to attack the protagonist, but he dodges and counterattacks. The challenger also manages to dodge and the two continue exchanging blows. Woo Hyun lands a kick on his opponent, pushing him back, and gains a small advantage. Sungchul points out that the fight really is incredible because both fighters can be compared to professional martial artists. Nayeon asks who that guy with his face covered is. The chat says that the guy really is incredible because they have never seen anyone manage to stand toe-to-toe with the protagonist, and maybe he is a pro player hiding his true identity. Woo Hyun continues the fight and thinks that his opponent's movements are not bad, but it is time to end this. He dodges the punch, finds an opening, and lands a direct hit, sending the opponent flying far away. The challenger is basically defeated, struggling to breathe, saying that this was already expected. He will not be able to beat the protagonist with a build he is not used to. However, he says that it was very fun and hopes they can have a real fight next time. He accepts his defeat and starts leaving the match, but Woo Hyun starts thinking about what he just said, since he said there would be a next time. The system announces that the protagonist has eliminated Anonymous and the match is over. He managed to survive alone until the end, eliminating 40 opponents. Sungchul says that, in the end, Haxical really did get 40 eliminations, completing the mission. Nayeon, wanting her money, smiles and asks if the person who sent that mission is still on the stream by any chance. The viewer who proposed the mission honors the agreement and pays the 3 million. Nayeon is happy and thanks them for the mission and the payment. However, they need to keep the pace and continue leveling up. In this way, Woo Hyun achieved a streak of 98 victories in that stream and reached master rank in every mode. Meanwhile, in the real world, 2 people were sitting in a room. The girl looks at her phone and sees the game community saying that the protagonist is looking for his disciple. He wants to show his coaching skills in the SSR Cup. The only requirement is that the disciple must be a streamer, and he will accept recommendations by email with consent. The girl is impressed and asks her brother if he saw the news about the protagonist testing people, and asks if they should try. She is Young Aryam, a gaming streamer. Young Down, who is also a streamer, says that he has already signed up, and he is the older one. Aryam says that he was too fast and asks why he did not sign her up too, since he was already doing it. He apologizes, saying that she is right because he should take a little better care of his little sister. At the American Planet Earth headquarters inside Sophia's office, she sees a special note saying that the protagonist achieved the highest number of eliminations in history in survival mode. The viewer named D-Use donated a huge amount. 2 survivors reached the end, no external program was detected, and now the protagonist is issuing a test to find a disciple. Sophia is surprised by the name Dias,